Peace to the gods, peace to the gods. Today I'm out in the at the lake again, bike riding at the lake. My morning bike ride. Got really into biking. Peace to the gods. It's my one form of exercise I really enjoy. Hey, I appreciate the $2.99, Mrs. Gomez. I appreciate that. Um, the title of this video is "You Don't Understand Because You Don't Look Up Words." And here's my message to you today. You know, when I first, I'm going to tell the story when I first started learning this information. When I first started learning, you know, I had gotten arrested and I was in county jail. And, you know, I'd had my fair share of run-in with law enforcement before, so I was pretty familiar with the process of what they do. And, you know, but in this particular instance, I thought I was going to get a bond, and only to find out later that they were not going to give me a bond. And so I could see the railroad about to commence. I appreciate that, Creole Dunny. I appreciate that. So I'm not going to go through all the particulars, but I'm just going to tell you what I told myself in the beginning when I very first started learning all of this information. And what I told myself was that I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to be afraid and I'm not going to waste my time. Those are the two things that I told myself. So the very first document I ever read out of any of this information was a document called Creditors and Their Bonds. I didn't have the version that you have. I had half of it. I didn't even have the entire version that you have. I was able to get out later and I found the entire version and put that out to the world, but only had half of it, which was the important portion, because the portion I had was for criminal, dealing with criminal cases. Half of it dealt with civil cases. The other half dealt with criminal cases. So I had the half that was just dealing with criminal cases. So I really didn't need the other half. But I started reading this document, and the first thing, and there was another document I had. It was called Moorish Liberty, Freedom from Tyranny. I made a video of it on this channel. I read the entire document. You don't even have to read it. It is on this channel. And one thing that brother said in that document that really stuck with me back then, he was talking about the importance of words, of knowing the meaning of words. In addition to the fact that I had earlier read a book called Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. It's basically the Bible of the Scientologist community, but it's called Dianetics, the Science of Mental Health. And in the very first pages of that book, L. Ron Hubbard said the reason that you don't comprehend something is because you pass over words you don't know the meaning of. And that was so profound to me. And I started implementing that in especially in what I was doing, because I was facing a criminal charge. So I didn't have the luxury of passing over words I didn't know the meaning of. So what I did was, when I started reading it, just like many of you, I was totally unfamiliar with any of this information. It was strange to me. I wasn't familiar with any of the concepts, any of that. Not there being no money, 1933, Admiralty gold fringe flags, and, you know, and republic versus democracy, public versus private. I'd never read the Constitution before in my life. All of these different things. So, you know, I can sympathize with a lot of you, and I understand the position that many of you are in. When I first started. And see, like this dude right here, all the states are in probate, you know. You just saying stuff like that. You know how many times, see, you just regurgitating something you heard, because they've been saying that your state is being probated for the last 20 years. So you're not saying anything original. You're not saying anything. There is nothing that you can tell me on here I haven't heard before. I'm talking to Kawa Charlie. There's not a damn thing. I've been doing this 20 years. I can tell you the person who brought the information out. That's how long I've been doing that. Y'all not saying nothing slick, you know. Not nothing. We can even go into the coroner, how the coroner has the authority to arrest the sheriff, and all the birth certificates are held in the coroner's office. You ever heard that before? There's things like that I could sit here and spit a whole bunch of things about the DTC, about a whole bunch of stuff that you probably never even heard of before. All these different concepts, a lot of which are bullshit because they're being promulgated by individuals who don't look up words and don't look up concepts, the meaning of things. There's a whole bunch of sovereign citizen bullshit. There is a lot of sovereign citizen bullshit in this space. I would say that 70% of the information being circulated in these spaces is bullshit. I'll say 70%, maybe 80%. It's a whole bunch of bullshit. Y'all know what y'all talking about. Y'all just sitting here just saying. No, I'm not saying that you're trying to call me out. I ain't even getting on you like that. I'm just saying y'all come out, our states are being probated and all of that, because it's being probated because you're considered dead. You're lost at sea. We can go to the Sestake Vi Act of 1666 where you've been lost 7 years at sea and they taken, your estate and they have to use it. It's called, what is that for use? You have ability to use somebody's property when it's not being used. Uh, uh, when you're not using it to prevent waste or to prevent waste. I forgot the word legal term for it, but somebody will think of it. But all of these concepts, all of it is just, it don't even matter. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the answer. The answer is number one, there is a public and a private. If you don't understand that, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about if you don't understand the distinction between public and private. You do not understand. I can say that affirmatively. I can go to anybody in a debate and I'll tear their ass up because they weak because they don't know public and private. I don't care who they are. You can go get anybody on the internet talking about this shit. I've looked at most of you, went to your YouTube pages and listened to your talk and all of this, went to your Instagrams and all this shit, your TikToks, and I can see 90% of you don't know and understand shit because you don't understand public and private. You don't understand that. You don't understand what it means when we say there is no money. Some of the most ridiculous things people say, like when they say, oh, if there is no money, why you charge for anything? That's an individual that doesn't understand what we're saying. Or, they just don't understand it. They understand the term when you say there is no money, but they really don't understand it. That everything that we're dealing with is with a negotiable instrument. They don't understand public and private because they think that they have some sort of right to do whatever they want to do and that the public doesn't have any right. So they should be in the public being able to do what they want. That's the main issue with the right to travel community. They don't understand public and private at all. They don't understand commerce. They don't understand commerce, how commerce operates. They haven't read the Constitution. The majority of them haven't read the Constitution. They don't know the 7 principles of the Constitution. In particular, they have no understanding of separation of powers. They don't understand delegation of powers doctrine. This is the reason why they can't understand how Article 3 judges can be in an Article 1 court, which is an administrative court. They don't understand that. They don't understand minimum contacts. They don't understand contract law, which is implied contracts as well as express contracts. They don't understand implied trust versus express trust. They don't understand implied agreements versus express agreements. They don't understand any of these things. They don't understand it. They just get on here and start talking shit. And let me tell you the biggest thing they don't know. They don't know their 8 parts of speech, grammar, that they should have learned in elementary school. I went back and tightened up on all of that. First thing I did, I opened up a dictionary, started working on my grammar, because I know I've been slipping on it. I went and looked up the definition of every single word I thought I knew the meaning of. Many of y'all don't know the definition of trust. You don't know the definition of a right. You don't even know what a right is. You don't know you don't know what a remedy is. People say, well, you used to don't have remedy. Nigga, you don't even know what a remedy is or how to enforce it. A remedy is enforced through contract by private individuals. You don't have a remedy just by default. You don't have a right by default. You have a right when you know what your rights are and you're able to put for a matter to be resolved, it must be expressed. The 10 maxims of commercial law, that should be a staple that everybody in this space studies, but they don't. They'll come in and ask me, well, how do I satisfy a lien? Well, it tells you number 10, a lien is only satisfied through counter affidavit, jury trial, or payment in full. Those are the only ways you can satisfy a lien. Ain't no other way. But people, they don't study the basics. They don't know the basics. They want to come in and I got a Facebook group, 35,000 members. It's the best thing. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because it's great because I see all the stupidity that's being circulated around. And, people get mad, got put them out and things like that. I don't care. But I also can see the misunderstanding of people and where people's hearts at. Like 90% of the people want to learn how to discharge debt. That's all the fuck they want. They have no interest in learning anything. Anything. That like I have a love for the information. Like I like learning different principles of law and things like that. All these motherfuckers, they come in, how to discharge a car. And the only reason they doing it because they don't know how to make no money. What they should be really studying is how to make some money because they don't know how to make any money. They don't know how to make any money. They broke. That's 90% of the people. 90% of the people, they can't make any money. That's why a lot of them go to socialism. Okay, when you read them, okay, I did the work, interface, and only a party to a contract can administer the birth certificate. Okay, only a party to the contract, so how do you identify the parties to the contract? How do you identify the parties? They say that you're a party to the contract. This is why we come into the courtroom and say, is this civil or criminal? Okay, it's criminal. Thank you. Let the record reflect that the action being brought against the defendant is a criminal action. Now I have another question for you. The Constitution for the United States of America only grants the court two criminal jurisdictions. One is a jurisdiction under the common law, and the other constitutes a condition of contract under criminal aspects of colorable admiralty jurisdiction. We know that. Have you read the clerk's practice? Have you read anything on admiralty? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. You haven't read anything on admiralty because y'all don't know what y'all looking at. Y'all, because if you did, you would understand that when they call it a statutory jurisdiction, that's what admiralty is called today, a statutory jurisdiction. But you wouldn't understand that because you ain't never studied admiralty. Benedict on admiralty, clerk's praxis, or anything like that. You ain't studied none of that. I'm really thinking about the question, man. It was good. So it's like a lot of people in this space, they just want to satisfy some sort of exigent circumstance. And they're really not interested in learning the information. Like, for instance, you're talking about discharging a car. To discharge a car, you need to know how to do an administrative process. You need to know how to put together a negotiable instrument. Like when I look at people who use they use a voucher and turn it into a negotiable instrument, those are lazy people to me. It's like you're supposed to know how to create a negotiable instrument if you consider yourself in commerce, but they they're going to write, pay to the United States Treasury, money order at the top and all that shit. That's that old jack. That's not professional at all. And it doesn't demonstrate competency. You're just doing something somebody told you to do. Just things like that. You should know how to create a negotiable instrument from scratch. You should know how to do an administrative process from scratch. You should know how to defend your position in court. If you can't do all those things, what you trying to discharge a car for? You shouldn't even be trying to do that shit. What are you trying to discharge a car for? So you can do the shit and keep coming back and asking somebody what to do next? Because I'm going to charge your motherfucking ass. And you come back and ask me what to do next, it's going to be $500 a pop every time you come back and ask me a question. I'm charging your ass. No, it's statutory if you have a minimum contact with the public system. See what I'm saying? They think that if you have an interest in you don't have to have an interest. If you have effectively, if you've done any business with the public, that's a minimum contact. And y'all don't understand what minimum contacts are. And interest in the public is public and private. Of course, is a public and private thing. People don't understand what privacy is. The majority of people don't. Well, now the public is not scary. The public is business. Everything in the public is a corporation. Everything in the public is about doing business. It's not simple, because if it was simple, you know how to do business. It's not simple. Don't say it's simple, because if it was simple, you'd be a good businessman or woman. And wouldn't be walking around here asking somebody to discharge a car and all that shit. You're not private in the public. See, that's what I'm saying. Public and private don't mix. You're not private in the public. That's that old dumbass sovereign citizen shit. You ain't no way you could be private in the public. Public and private don't mix. How you gonna be private in the public? You can't be private in the public. Public just means government. It just means interaction with government. Anytime you have any interaction with government, you have tainted the private. You've tainted it. I'll give you a case that you can go and read. It's called Evans versus Newton. That judge gives y'all a textbook class on how the private gets tainted by interaction with the public, and it's a trust case too, dealing with private trust. It's called Evans versus Newton. Y'all can Google it right now and go and listen, read that case. Because, like I said, people make statements. You don't make statements to me like you know. I've been doing this 20 years. No, public means, see what I'm saying? He just gonna make up his own definition of public. Public means anything outside yourself. They just make up shit. He think you're gonna take that into court too. You gonna say that to a judge? Public means anything outside of myself. And I'm out and I'm in myself, and you're outside of myself. Going there, that dumbass sovereign citizen shit. It said that's why I never tried to go through any discharge process, even though I have good understanding. It's because I felt a need of deeper connection with the information. I didn't try to do nothing until about 18 months I'd been in. I didn't file a UCC 1. So I've been like studying about 18 months. I didn't file no paperwork or do anything. Okay, well, you got Blackstone Bouvier's. I'm happy for you. We got about 30 dictionaries on SBC University in PDF format, all of them. Y'all can go over there, all of them. Much respect, Yusuf. Keep up the work. You're blessed. And I appreciate that. You know, that's why we got so much bad law on the books, because people go in there with this sovereign citizen ideology that doesn't have any basis in law or fact and just start spitting stuff. And that's one of the first things I knew or understood when I started really researching on myself, because I was reading a lot of other people's stuff, and a lot of other gurus came before us. They didn't know what they was doing. Some of them, they knew a little bit, but they didn't know as much. They were just talking to a lot of people that didn't know anything. So when a person doesn't know anything and he's talking to a person that knows a little bit, the person that knows a little bit seems like a genius, because the person that don't know anything doesn't know anything. All right, until you get around somebody who really knows and starts talking about it. But that's essentially what was going on out there in the public. And I go back and listen to a lot of the old gurus now, and I listen to some of the things that they say, and they have like just a basic rudimentary understanding of the information like everybody else. He said, I wrote my own affidavit against a lieutenant. I appreciate it, and saw that they were out of line, but then realized I was too. I didn't know a thing. Could have, that's why I said I had that sheriff deputy. He came to me. It was a sheriff deputy. He said, Jones, you always talking about the Constitution. I bet you never read the Constitution. And I hadn't read the Constitution. And I'm the kind of person, I'm quick to say I don't know, but when I say I don't know, I'm gonna go and research it, because I don't want to say I don't know a second time. I don't like people to catch me two times in a row asking me the same question and I don't know the answer. So I went and read the Constitution. And even when you read the Constitution, if you don't know the basic principles of it, you still won't understand it. Like, it took me a while to understand that the Constitution doesn't have anything to do with me. You know what document helped me understand that? The Paper Arrows by Howard Griswold. He's the author. It's on the internet. Y'all can Google it right now. It's called Paper Arrows. Paper Arrows by Howard Griswold. And just to kind of like give you a summary of or a thesis of what it was about, he starts off by talking about, I've been studying this information for 20 years, and I could have always sworn that I lived in the United States. I could always sworn that I had constitutional rights. He thought all of that, and they allow us to keep believing that, but you don't have constitutional rights. You have constitutionally protected rights. The Constitution doesn't give you any rights. The Constitution wasn't even written for you. The Constitution is written for the government in Washington, D.C. That's why each of the states have their own individual constitutions. The Constitution, it applies to an individual as far as civilly, with civil rights if he's a 14th Amendment citizen. But even as a 14th Amendment citizen, you don't have any rights. Like a 14th Amendment citizen don't have any right to go into Article 3 court. There's case law on that. I can pull all the case law on that. So, it's like, these are things that, and the biggest question is the people who were born in Washington, D.C. Should people even be living in Washington, D.C.? I don't even think you should be living there. You shouldn't even be born there. You shouldn't have your children born there or anything. Washington, D.C. is the District of Columbia. It is a government. It's for the government. Why are people living in Washington, D.C.? Why? That Washington, D.C. is not even a state. It's not even a state. What's your opinion on me saying that the government can't be shut down if all the businesses are still going on? When they say government is shut down, it means they just don't have, they haven't come in for an agreement on how to spend the money, government spending, which I'm cool with, because if they're not spending any money, that means the national debt is not going up, and we don't need to waste any money anyway. And the reason the government is shut down is because the Democrats uh, want to spend money on illegal aliens. I don't even understand this illegal alien talk. If you, in my opinion, if you are a liberal and you are for protecting people who are not citizens of this country, giving them health care and all this bullshit, you're a traitor to your country, because there's no other country on planet Earth that's going to do that. And we are no exception. United States is not the garbage can for all the countries in the world. So I don't really understand where y'all getting this idea that we're supposed to spend our tax dollars on illegal aliens who aren't paying into the system or anything like that. And you think that you're doing some sort of, some good deed or some shit like that. But you can go with the motherfuckers, because you're not going to let them live in your neighborhood. You don't want to live next door to them, and you're not going to let them live in your house. And if you're not going to do those two things, you need to shut the fuck up and get the hell out of our country and go with their ass. You know, we got our own problems. You sitting there, illegal aliens and shit. I've been to Mexico. I mean, ain't finna let in Mexico. Let me tell you something. They have a country. They can go back to their country. All right, they have a country right across the border. They can build their country up. Why don't they get together? They got land. They got resources. They got wood. They got trees. They can cut down trees and build houses and build neighborhoods just like anybody else. To go over there and just do that, I've been to Germany too. I've been to Berlin. I was just in Berlin last year. Once I've been in Berlin, I was in Berlin about a couple of months. It was earlier this year. I was in Berlin. Yeah, you got your own country. And this is what I don't understand, though. How did y'all allow a Jewish woman to become president of Mexico? And she over there spreading all that liberal shit. Man, let me tell you something. If you want to see what will happen when you let a woman to become a president of your country, y'all need to go down to Mexico. And I ain't talking about going to Tulum, Cancun, some shit. Nah, go to Mexico City. I went to Mexico City. I ain't talking about going on vacation. I study international law. That's why I'm focused on what do words mean. You should be focused on what words mean if you're studying any kind of law. What they have to do with international law? Any kind of law, you should be studying words. I was stationed at Ramstein Air Base in Germany in the U.S. Air Force. They got a ticket, and I just tried to request relief of court fees and fines. Ask a lawyer a couple of questions, and boom, handled. The rest I can wait. Something so easy boosted my confidence. And you will, when you get a couple of those wins, it will boost your confidence. You're not going to win all the time, because all judges are different in different jurisdictions. You're going to run into some judges, they're going to try you. And you're going to run some judges, it's just different reasons you'll win. Like sometimes judges don't even feel like going through the shit. They're like, look, man, I got a full docket. Here, I'm going to let you have this shit. Just get the fuck out of my courtroom. That's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes, a judge doesn't know what they're doing. Just because they're on the bench, do you know you can be a judge or an administrator? You don't have to have a law degree. You have to have a law degree. It's just things like that. They sometimes don't know what they're doing. It says nothing wrong with a woman being president. Yes, it is. Absolutely is. Yes, it is. Women ain't leaders. It absolutely is something wrong with a woman being president. I'm sitting there saying this. Yes, it absolutely is. God did not ordain for women to lead men in any capacity whatsoever. And a nation of men that will allow a woman to lead them, they have just announced to the world that they are ready to take the fuck over. Because that's all that ever happened when women run countries and everything. Other countries, much more powerful, come in and take those motherfuckers over. She was installed as a president, just like the chancellor of Germany was. And when there was a woman over there, they installed them people. They installed them. They got installed. And you got liberalism. You talking about ain't nothing wrong with that. You go over to Mexico right now, they got on the buses, women and men sitting in different sections of the buses. All that liberal bullshit going on down there in Mexico right now. Man, please. And Germany too. That Germany real bad with it. That liberal shit in Germany, I went in Germany. I was tripping. I was like, God damn, Amsterdam, Amsterdam, the most liberal city on the planet. I don't understand why y'all just don't move there. What if you like if you really a liberal, you know, you're just a liberal. Why don't you move to Amsterdam? It's like the most liberal country on the face of the earth. Everything goes over there. You smoke weed. They ain't gonna fuck with your little homosexual tendencies and all that. Why don't y'all just move over to a country where y'all all can live and practice your liberal ideology? Why do y'all try to force that shit on other people who do not want it? That's what I don't understand. Amsterdam is liberal as hell. I just left Amsterdam too. I just went to Amsterdam, Germany, Switzerland, um, Italy, France, London, Spain. Spain is a pretty cool country. You know, Barcelona is, but you know, Madrid is like that's like a Spanish version of New York. So what are you delivering to the public? What I'm doing right now? We don't know what I'm delivering to the public. I've been on here like what type of question is that? So you look like Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince. Well, I appreciate that. I don't have no problem with getting older. I'm getting older. Cabbage Patch Kids and NPCS everywhere. It says, let me see. Switzerland is liberal too. It really is. But you know what's kind of Switzerland is liberal, but it's not as bad as Amsterdam. But they are. It's a lot of communism. When I was in Switzerland, it was a whole bunch, a lot of communists in Switzerland too. You know, the Communist Party trying to take a strong foothold in Switzerland. I was shocked when I was in Switzerland, some of the things I saw, as far as they got poverty, they got like poor neighborhoods and shit. You know, I was like, you know, because you know, you got this in your mind, you think of Switzerland as a banking center, all this, everything is new, everything out mountains and all that shit. Shit, I went that shit. That shit was just like any other city. I'm like, okay, you know, but it was a cool city though. I could live in Switzerland though. I could live in Switzerland. I could live in Germany too. I like Germany, and I could live in Amsterdam. I could live in Amsterdam, even though it's liberal. I could live in Amsterdam. Amsterdam was cool. Aloha Buddha, I love you, man. Hey, I was a member of SBC, but it apparently wasn't compatible with the older iPhone, but I wanted to rejoin. Okay, go over. Let me say this real quick. Somebody came over and you start cussing out my customer service rep because you tried to get a consultation in the chat. Let me just make something perfectly clear to you. Okay, my customer service portal on SBC University, the chat, that's not for you to come in there and asking questions about shit. Okay, there is a consultation button right there. You can push that. My people over there only to handle problems with you logging in or some other technical problem you have. She's not there to answer none of your motherfucking questions, nigga. Okay, so you go over there asking questions. She's gonna direct you to a consultation, and if you start cussing her out, we're gonna block your ass. I'm gonna suspend you or whatever. Okay, but you don't go over there talking to my people crazy, because that's not what she's there for. She's not there to answer your questions, how to discharge a debt, what do I file this paperwork and all this shit right there, motherfucker. Use your fucking common sense. It's customer service. Fuck, man. Like, god damn, man, people are just like retarded, man. They come over there and start asking questions like, look, man, she just here to get you logged in. They crazy, man. They'll come over there and just start asking her questions and shit like she gonna give you the answer, like I'm over there answering the question or something. You know, it's crazy, man. I'm gonna do a video today because I screenshot this dude, man. You ain't never get no help from me. I don't give a fuck. You can never get no help from me. You might well cancel your membership, go somewhere else. Talk to my people like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they go over there asking customer service questions and shit. These motherfuckers is retarded, man. They ain't got common sense. I ain't got common sense, man. It's a lot. Listen, man, it's a lot of people in this space that don't have common sense. You know, and let me say something else. This right here, I want y'all to pay attention to what I'm gonna say next. This is the most important thing I'm gonna say. And this is for all my future gurus, because I know there's gonna be some people coming behind me. You're gonna rise to the top, and you're going to be a guru, and you're going to be in this space. Okay, I'm going to give you a very important piece of information. All right. This space has been infiltrated by the feds more than any other thing. All right. So The reason you have to have rules is just like in the hustle world. When I used to hustle, I had rules. I got arrested when I didn't follow the rules. Like when you hustle, you first start off, you have everything, because you ain't got no money, nothing like that. You got your rules, you follow the rules. Then you start becoming successful. You start making a lot of money, and then you start slipping on your game. You're getting relaxed. You got too relaxed. And now you're making mistakes. And then you have a problem. Well, it's no different in this right here. There are rules, all right, that you have to abide by. Like, here's the first rule. Never answer a tax question. Never answer a tax question. Always assume that a person asking you a tax question is a Fed. They may not be. It doesn't matter. You got a rule. You don't answer tax questions, all right? You can direct them to some information for them to read, but you don't answer tax questions. The tax issue is the number one thing they are fishing for in this space. They're fishing for that. They're doing anything they can to set you up or anything like that. So as soon as you see somebody ask you a tax question about a 1099 OID or 1099 A, B, C, or anything like that, you direct them to some. I tell them, I say, look, we got a document that you can read. It's called "Don't Be a Tax Fugitive," or it's another one called "Nature of the Remedy" by Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's 2 documents. Everybody gets their information from those 2 documents. So just direct them to the source. They can read it for themselves. But you don't need to be getting into a long conversation with them about taxes or anything like that. Next thing, you don't give any of your personal information away. You don't give a fuck what nobody says. The more somebody knows about you, the more they can get at you. All right, so you don't give your personal information away. You don't give a fuck what they say. They'll try to shame you into giving it. Why are you hiding it? You don't give a fuck about that. You don't give a fuck about them. You're better off blocking them. You're better off blocking them. And because you know what happens when you block them? You forget about them within an hour. They're a distant memory. All right? Just forget about it. Just block them. Don't give a fuck what they say or anything like that. Block them. Next rule. Allow people to make videos about you. It's going to increase your popularity. They're called your street team. Eventually, when I first came into this, there's a law of power. You attract attention at all costs, whether it's positive or negative. So don't get mad at the haters. The haters are feeding you energy. Just don't feed any of it back. Don't say their name. Don't do anything. Let them feed into you, but you don't feed into them. Because a lot of times they're just trying to become popular by trying to attract your attention, because when you're already in the limelight, you have the power to make somebody else popular. But if you don't acknowledge them, make them build up their popularity on their own. And the only way they can do that is by establishing the fact that they're competent in their area of expertise, which many of them aren't, which is why they're trying to attack you, because they're not competent in their area of expertise. All right. So understand those things if you're going to be a guru. Also, if you are charging people any money, you pay your taxes. These people have social security numbers. They are U.S. citizens. Okay, they pay your taxes, file your taxes. You have a business that you're running. Incorporate your business. If they are paying you, pay them. All the other gurus, most of them go to jail for tax evasion, which is stupid. Just pay your taxes. You're doing business. But a lot of them, they want to say, well, would you discharge the tax? No, man, you're doing business. You're doing business, all right? Discharge of debt is really for you to protect yourself, and when you get in some sort of circumstance where your freedom is in jeopardy, or some sort of property that you own, and you're desiring to get out of the public. What a lot of you try to do is stay in the public and keep discharging debt while staying in the public. Discharge of debt was made so you can remove yourself from the public. Not to stay in the pub, not to get a credit card, keep buying shit and keep discharging the credit card. Y'all be trying to do that stupid ass shit. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's why they turn off your credit card. So, these are things that, here's the next thing. Let me give you another one. Here's another one. Any citation of authority you see floating around the internet, don't repost it unless you read the case. A lot of that goes on. They will make up citations and bullshit like that and circulate it around. You go and read the case. It's not even in the case. There's a lot of my point is this. There's a lot of people who intentionally spread misinformation to prove that you are people who do not read. They do it as a joke on you. Watch, I just tell this motherfucker this, he'll just start spreading it. They don't investigate it. It's like Mikey on motherfucking, what is that cereal? Give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything. That's how they look at some of you. Like, you tell that motherfucker anything. They ain't gonna check it. They're not gonna check it. And so a lot of misinformation gets spread around, like the birth certificate authentication. Half the people doing that shit, they don't know that shit came from a misinterpretation of Minnesota Rules of Practice 220. They don't know that shit. But they just somebody told them to do some shit and they just do it. They don't know. It's still just spreading. They don't know. They just doing it. They don't know. So the thing about it is you got to make sure that you look up every word. Watch out for these damn people who come and ask you about taxes, because it get infiltrated. This space has been infiltrated. I have feds come to my group and they tell me they feds. They'll tell me straight up. They say, hey man, I'm a federal agent. I just want to know, is it okay for me to come in your group? And I say, yeah. Attorneys too. I got feds and attorneys. They come to my group. Juan Galt, he's a member over there at SBC University in that group. Juan Galt, the one that was making all them videos on me, he over there. I ain't kicked him out of nothing. I like Juan being in there. Juan's over there, and some other attorneys too. They'll tell me they're attorneys. They say, yeah, I'm an attorney. I want to know, can I come in your group? I say, sure, man, come on in. The FBI agents, everybody come over there and they'll tell me. They'll say, yeah, I'm an agent. Because I asked them, are you an agent? You're supposed to, because I had them, like, are you an FBI agent? And they'll say, yeah. I say, okay, no problem. Come on in. Because I ain't got nothing to hide, because I know in my group how I administer it. I'm not going to let certain shit go. I kick people out every day. Because a lot of times they post this shit off topic. This is the SBC University group. This is not the nationality group. This ain't the, we black people and white people are the devil group and shit like that. It ain't all that racism shit. I ain't letting that in there. This group is not for that purpose, for you to come in and start talking negatively about another ethnic group of people and shit like that. Nah, what are you bringing us in here for? This is not the place for that. This is called the SPC University Secured Party Creditor Group. All right, that's what we talk about in here. All right, if you want to talk about discharging debt, that's fine. If you want, even if you want to talk about taxes of how to file something, I'll let you do that. I'm just giving you a warning when you do it. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna take it down if you tell somebody to file something like that. I'm not gonna take that down. But I'm telling you, I'm saying, look, man, you need to watch yourself, because everything ain't all sweet like you think it is. You need to watch yourself. Because if you really don't think that these people have said that sovereign citizens are considered a terrorist group, and you don't think that the feds is on my page and in that group, you's a damn fool. You're just a damn fool. And let me tell you something else I know about you. Oh, here's another thing. Never listen to anybody who's never been to court. Never listen to anybody who hasn't been to court. Never listen to anybody who hasn't been to court. They ain't been in court, don't listen to shit they got to say. Yeah, I mean, you can, but take it with a grain of salt. All right? They don't have any experience. Because what the experience does, you can be right, but the courts will teach you how hard it is to do the shit. See, what is a lot of people, they under the what these people to do is, all you got to do is X, Y, and Z. Well, have you done that in court? Well, no. Well, what are you telling me all I got to do? What do you mean all I got to do? You didn't say all I got to do and you ain't did this shit? Because it ain't that easy. Ain't none of this shit easy. And that's another problem that they've been spreading out there. They give you the impression that this shit is easy, and it's not easy. It's not easy to discharge debt. It's not easy. It's not easy to discharge a car. That's some of the hardest shit you can do. Discharging a car. I think a house is easier than a car, personally. Can you direct us where to see successful judge? No, you can't. They don't make successful judgments on. At first, I don't file 1983 cases. So I don't know. Or you talking about 1980? I don't do that shit. That's in the public. I don't do none of that shit. See, that's a beginner right there. When they start asking you about statutes, that's usually a beginner. Because that's what I was doing in the beginning too. Talking about 12 USC, can you find 18 USC 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights, You know, all that shit, you know, I was quoting all that 12 USC 411, all this shit that you be hearing them spit and everything. Those usually beginners. They don't know the difference between public and private. They don't know the difference. See, we deal with private remedies as private people. We only deal with contracts. That's why you do an administrative process. But the new people, they don't understand that. They don't understand. You can, like I said, you can ask somebody ask you a question. You can tell in 2 seconds. Yeah, he been doing this about 2-3 years. You can tell how long it takes for them to figure out shit. You know, because like by where they're at, the questions that they ask, you can just tell. Okay, they've been doing about 2 years, 3 years, something like that. It says, what would you tell these people who want to go into court and try and make the judge look a fool by trying not to know more? That's a good question. And it's kind of ambivalent about it, because I do think there are certain times where you do make the judge look a damn fool when they're disrespectful to you. If he's not extending the same courtesy to you that you're extending to him, then you're well within your rights to make him look like a damn fool, because they already think we stupid. And so, you know, if I'm asking you a question, like your attitude should be this: I'm looking for settlement and closure. I'm not here to do any type of debate. I'm not here to argue jurisdiction or anything like that. Your first attempt, when I go into the court, I'm not going in there to argue jurisdiction. I never do that. I'm in there for settlement and closure. This is a commercial matter, okay? It's a commercial matter. That means there's an accounting with a accounts receivable that's aging on their books. They're looking for someone that's going to do some sort of performance on that to satisfy the obligation. So we're looking for some sort of accounting procedure to be done. If they at any point try to act as if that's not the case or anything like that, then that's when I'm going to go in to start embarrassing them by asking them. And you embarrass them by asking them questions, not by making conclusions of law. You know, like when you go in there and say you don't have jurisdiction over me, that's the dumbest shit in the world to say. They do got jurisdiction over you. You're in the courtroom. You're in the courtroom. You made it. You didn't came in, or you don't even know what an appearance is. You didn't came into the courtroom. You hold, just by the fact you holding a conversation with the judge, you made an appearance. Because if you hadn't made an appearance, he can't see or hear you. I've had that happen. When you ain't made an appearance, they can't see or hear you. That's why it's called an appearance. Appearance means to subject yourself to the jurisdiction of the court. So just by you holding a conversation with him, going back and forth, they got jurisdiction. But a lot of people don't know that. You don't know that. That's why you're only there for settlement and closure. You're like, look, it's a commercial matter. I understand the jurisdiction that they operate in is commercial, which means there's some sort of pecuniary interest the state has. Y'all say it's a bank. This is what I don't get. Y'all say, y'all call them corporations. Y'all say the corporate United States. This is a commercial matter. There ain't any money. We're dealing with commercial script. But you want to say they don't have jurisdiction, but everything that they're doing is commerce. So why are you living in a municipality? A municipality is a business district. Dallas is a business district. Los Angeles is a business district. Chicago is a business district. New York is you look at New York, go to the top of the Empire State Building and tell me what you see when you go to New York. New York ain't nothing but a large city of little family-owned businesses. Far as the eye can see. Y'all tripping. Y'all need to open your eyes, man. Y'all trying to fight these people and everything. You the one that's out of order, not the government. You the one out of order. You don't understand what's going on. And I'm going to tell you something. The reason you don't understand what's going on because you're not a businessman or woman. You don't know how to make no money for yourself. You don't know how to draw energy to yourself that can revolve around yourself that will give you the kind of life that you want. So you just spending all your time blaming other people for your problems. You know, I had some guy that text me the other day, you know, talking about, you know, I spent $50 on SBC University. I want my money back. You know, I used some of the documents on your website and they didn't work. I said, okay, well, can you send them to me what you filed? No, I can't send them to you. Okay, well, why are you sitting there saying you filed them? And, you know, and then, well, can you help me? I say, well, yeah, you don't pay me for a consultation? Like, you ain't that type of dude, all that shit you talk. I said, nigga, if you follow me, you already know I'm the kind of person to tell you ain't nothing free. I don't hide that fact. You can't shame me into doing something free for you. I'm going to talk about your ass. Get your broke ass off my phone. I don't want that energy near me no way. That's contagious. I don't want that. You got an illness, and I don't want any of that. You refuse to think in a certain type of way. I don't want nothing to do with that. You have just as much power as I got. There's nothing special about me. You have just as much capability as I have. There's nothing special about me. You were given all the same tools I was given. You were given 24 hours in a day. You were given a mind. You were given a will. You have the capability of deciding if you're going to look at circumstances in a positive or negative light. You have all those things that you have. So don't look at me and start try to shame me. Man, if you'll get the fuck out of my face. And number two, you sound like less than a man. You sound like less than a man. Men don't do that. A lot of y'all niggas been raised by single mothers and you're emotional like bitches. All right? Let's just call it what it is. Emotion is for women. That ain't for men. As a man, nobody feels sorry for you. We can feel sorry for women. Women can get rescued. A woman can get rescued. You know, a man with means can take a woman that's drowning and save her. If you're a man and you drowning, niggas gonna pull out their camera and take a goddamn picture, man. You better understand what's going on. They gonna take a picture, okay? Ain't gonna film that shit. This nigga drowning. Ain't nobody gonna stick out a hand and do that, man. You gotta save yourself. The helping hand you looking for is at the end of your arm. I spent the 52 and I can say well spent, the examples and books alone, and I'm adding more and more stuff to it. I'm just waiting for the programmers to get through. The programmers are programming something right now. So that's what I'm really waiting for. It's an addition that's being added to it. It should be done by the end of this month. But that's when I get that done, that's when I'm gonna really take off. That's when I'm gonna see a lot of stuff. But I just kind of like put some, how long you been live for? I've been live 47 minutes. I mean, it's just true. I can't stand no man to be crying like a bitch, talking about what your problem is and everything like somebody care. Nobody care about your problems. Nigga, I learned this in jail. Why would I feel sorry for you? I want y'all to listen to something real quick. Why would I feel sorry for you? When I learned this, the first 31 months of me learning this, I was in jail. I didn't have access to the internet. I only got to use the first 18 months, I only got to use a Black's Law Dictionary about twice a week for 2 hours. When I went to the law library, I had to put in a request to go to the law library, and I'd be in there all 2 hours. Sometimes I'd be looking up people's case information and everything like that. Why would the fuck would I feel sorry for you? And you are free, all right, out here work. Why would I feel sorry for you if I get arrested 2 times and I can come out and make 6-7 figures and you still at the same motherfucking spot you were, you know, when I left 5 years ago, and I come back out and start running circles around you in 6 months? You've been free, you know, you ain't been locked up or nothing like that, and you crying about some shit and I'm supposed to feel sorry for you, and you've been free? What kind of man are you? And you want to waste your time talking about another man or worried about another man's pockets? A man that is on his purpose, he don't even have time to even think about what another man got or what he's doing. Just by the fact you got time to do that in itself is prima facie evidence that you a bitch ass nigga. You are. You just are. I can just say it. You get mad. I know it's gonna be people get mad at me and everything. It's because they got some bitch in them. Because that's why what I'm saying triggers them. Why are you sitting here talking about that? What are you doing? Are you spending more time trying to figure out how to discharge debt, or are you spending more time trying to figure out how to get a business and establish a legacy for yourself? How to get your mind right? How to get into some positive thought? How to start drawing things? How to start attracting the things in your life that you're gonna need? Where are you spending most of your time? The discharge debt thing has just gotten out of hand. It's gotten out of hand. It's like that's all people want to talk about. It's all they want to talk about. It's discharging. That's all they want to talk about. I appreciate it. How do you feel about the executor's estate when dealing with the local and federal jurisdiction? You know, that is, what is my man's name who did the executor letter? Dave, what's his name? I got his information on my website. The executor of the estate. Okay, that you're the executor of the estate. Okay, so, all right, let's talk about the estate. Okay, are we talking about estate or trust? You put an estate in a trust. Everything has been placed into trust. So When we go into court, they say they appoint you as a trustee. You're looked at as a trustee ex maleficio. I just had some girls kick me off their little TikTok. They said, you know, everything that the courts deal with is a constructive trust. I'm like, damn, bitch, that's the first thing I looked up the first word I ever looked up. Listen to me real quick. The very first word I ever looked up, the very first word I ever looked up the first time I opened the Black's Law Dictionary, the very first word was legal fiction. In that definition, it says an example of a legal fiction is a constructive trust. And then I looked up that. A constructive trust is really not a trust. It's something that's being construed to prevent unjust enrichment. And you're looked at as a trustee ex maleficio. Where y'all got this estate shit, I really don't know. Because an estate is what you put into a trust. An estate is placed into trust. But once again, it just showed that people don't know. They you know, what is dude's name who said came up with the executive letter, the executor letter? I got all of them on my website too. All the executive letters. I can't think of his name. I'll think of it in a minute. Executor cannot delegate authority. Is that correct? When you're an executive of a state, what do you mean you can't delegate? Yeah, you can delegate authority, you know, because everything is done through contract. What you mean? You got the right to contract unlimited. What you talking about? Yeah, you can delegate, just like a trustee can delegate authority. Trustees can delegate authority. What do you think they're doing with your government? They got delegation of authority doctrine. How does one get their property back if it didn't enter the public court, but the sheriff still moved on default orders established in their public court? Well, the first thing it is see, I would ask to see your paperwork, because sheriffs don't act without a judgment from a court. They got a reason they did what they do. Anytime anybody says anything to me, here's the next thing. Gurus, future gurus. Always, when you're dealing with people, assume or presume that the government did everything right. Because they always do. The government does everything right. It's usually 90% of the time, it is the individual, they lack of understanding. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, let's look at the left. You got people say, what has the president done for us? Okay, anybody with common sense know that the legislature creates the laws, the executive enforces the laws, and the judiciary interpret the laws. The president, he can issue executive orders, but executive orders are for the administrative agencies, because all the administrative agencies are under the executive branch of government. So you listen to a lot of people and they complain, they out picketing and protesting, but all you got to do is look at them and see, damn, they don't have a basic civic education. Just a basic civic education. So 9 times out of 10, it's not that the government did anything incorrectly. It's just that the majority of the population, they don't have a basic civic education. They definitely don't understand law. And so as soon as they start accusing the government, the first thing come out of my mouth, let me see your paperwork. Let me see what happened. You know, I want to see what happened. Now, there are times I get consultations where the people are right. There was some funny shit going on. But, you know, for the most part, it's like, but you dig, you'll start finding out things. Like, what did they do? Well, did you show up in court? No, I didn't go to court. Well, they got a default judgment on you. What do you think was going to happen if you didn't go to court? Did you answer any of the dunning letters that they sent you, the notices? No, I didn't answer any of the notices. What do you think was going to happen? You think it was just going to go away? You ignore it? Do you know anything about multi-jurisdictional notice? I mean, I can listen to the name, multi-jurisdictional notice. You're giving a notice to different jurisdictions. I would say UCC1 would constitute that. You filing that. You know, what do you mean multi-jurisdictional notice? I ain't never heard it worded like that. But a notice is a notice. That's UCC 1-202. That's all I need to read is UCC 1-202. There was no paperwork when you didn't get served. There was no paperwork when you didn't get served. I want you to look at that sentence you just wrote. There was no paperwork when you didn't get served. There was no paperwork when you didn't get served. You didn't get served, but there was paperwork. Well, you know, improper service of process. That's what you need to go with. But 9 times out of 10, my question to you would be this. Did you put in, when you moved, did you put in a notice with the post office? Because they can send paperwork to your last known address. Did you send it in? And nobody can sue anyone unless you've been served properly. Can I pay you to teach me foreclosure defense? Yeah, you can. I mean, you come to my class. It kind of costs a little bit for one-on-one. My time is very expensive for personal attention. It's very, I can get it kind of expensive. You better off just going to the classes or watching videos. But if you can afford it, no problem. You might can afford it. I don't have no problem doing that. I'll sit down with you and show you everything I know. Can I? It says you need a monster truck with those glasses. Man, these glasses, man, look, man, I ride bikes, man. I don't understand that. I'm at the lake right now. I ride bikes, man. I'm a cyclist. I'm getting ready to get back on my bike right now. I'm cycling, man. I'm doing my 20 miles right now, but I stop usually on I ride. I do about 7-8 miles and I stop. There's a place I like to stop at the lake, and then I like to take a break, drink me a drink, then live stream. It says understanding the executive office and use of the executive. Yeah, David Clarence. Yeah, that's him. David Clarence is the one who put that information out. I have all his executive letters. I have every last one of everything he ever made. And he had a theory. So, I mean, if y'all want to follow him, cool, but I don't think I don't think it's the executive. I'm into trust. I believe we learned about people leveraging HELOC and insurance policies for business. Do you have any comments on these concepts? No, I have no comment on that. Good stuff. Is equity a proper defense for quiet title? It can be. It can be. If you have an equitable defense, if there's no remedy in law. But yeah, when you do a discharge process, that's an equitable remedy because there ain't any money to pay for anything with. So it's going to be an equitable remedy. It says, I was served with a signature of C-19 under COVID restrictions. Is that valid? I don't know what a C-19 is under COVID. I don't know. I don't know what that is. The substitute service shows someone else who isn't anyone I know. Well, that don't mean just because you don't know them. Well, you saying that they served someone and wasn't you? Well, it's improper service of process. You go down there and file that. That's void. That makes a judgment void. Ab initio. It's a void judgment. Anything in the process they didn't file correctly is a void judgment because the sheriff is only going to take action with an order from the court. And if it's a void judgment, you bring it to the notice of the court. Yeah, I'm at White Rock Lake right now. I'm at White Rock. Let's see. Yeah, improper service of process. Have you recently addressed or listened to Asate Shuku recently? I don't even know what that is, dude. I don't listen to nobody. I don't spend my time listening to that many people. I don't even know who that is. I have no idea who that is. Do you believe in conditional? Let me read this right here. It says, do you believe in conditional acceptance, or when should you use it? I think there are proper times when you will use a conditional acceptance. If you're discharging anything, there's no proper time to use a conditional acceptance. Use an all-out acceptance. And you would know that if you read your secure party paperwork. But the people who do conditional acceptances, they don't read anything because as a part of your contract, you said that any presentments that you receive, you will satisfy them. So you don't conditionally accept anything because conditionally accepting something from the government is you requiring them to prove that they have a claim, which they don't have a claim because they're bankrupt. They're making colorable claims. They're bankrupt entities. So no, they don't. That's why they don't ever sign affidavits. They don't ever sign it. But you are trying to be an enemy of the state. And that's what you don't want to be. You're supposed to be here to assist the government through their bankruptcy, not challenging them on everything that they're doing. See, these concepts, this is where acceptance for value came from. But y'all new school people, y'all contentious. Y'all looking at the government as your enemy. You're into division. It's me against them. That's y'all whole mindset. So y'all whole approach to it is not even correct. So it's like, the whole mindset behind what you got. So that's why y'all like to do conditional acceptances, because conditional acceptance is contention. I will do X, Y, and Z up on proof of claim. You provide X, Y, and Z. And that's not how it's supposed to be. That's causing a friction. And you're going to lose 90% of those interactions anyway. You're going to lose 90%. It says, Asante Shakur went to Cuba after being broken out of prison. Okay, I mean, he went to a communist country. I mean, hey, my thing is, I were to be free in another country than be in jail in this country. I don't have no problem with that. We used to have something back in the day called sheriff's affidavits. If you're in Georgia, there was actually a law in the books that said if you present a sheriff affidavit, that they would have to stop the foreclosure and take it back to court. But they didn't follow that shit either. How long do I have to accept for value for an agreement? 72 hours. The basic thing is 72 hours. Anytime you get a presentment, answer it within 72 hours. Just do everything 72 hours. And watch how shit go for you when you follow that. If you get something in the mail, answer it within 72 hours. Is this channel promoting squatting? See, what now? Who is this ignorant motherfucker coming here? We ain't even talking about nothing remotely related to that. This is Tom C just coming here talking about squatting and shit. What is this motherfucker talking about? How did he infer from anything we discussing that somebody's promoting squatting? But how did you just pull that out your ass? Where did you get it from? Just pull it out your ass. I'm like, okay, okay, we're not promoting squatting. I mean, somebody have a right to fight a foreclosure. If nobody's filed a foreclosure deed in the real estate records, nobody's squatted on anything. And if there's a fraudulent foreclosure, they have a right to fight that. He said, good on the handbook of the law of trust. Good. I've 300 of those passed in one set. Appreciate that. Very enlightening. It's a good thing. He said, I misunderstood. He said, that don't make sense, OG. If they refuse your tender, you have to conditionally accept to obtain remedy effect. That's not true. Ain't no additionally accept to contain remedy. If they refuse, that's where you have other options, enforcement. And where's condition? Show me conditional acceptance in the UCC under Article 3. See, you making up your own rules. See, you one of them type of people play Monopoly. You talking about you put $500 on free parking. Then I ask you, well, where is that in the rules? Y'all just make up shit. The rules to the game is the UCC. You don't make up your own motherfucking rules. Rules of the game is the UCC. Am I a banker or a private banker? Everybody's a private banker. What kind of bike do you got? I got me a Trek. I got me an FX2 Trek. I had an FX3. Somebody stole it. Nigga stole that shit right out of my garage, man. I see this nigga on the goddamn video screen. A damn homeless Hispanic man walked up in my garage and calmly rode off on that motherfucker. $2,000 bike. I was mad at the motherfucker. Let's see. You moderating use of views saying, y'all super chat. Yeah, user, you're uniquely intelligent, bro. I don't know how you attract some of the dumbest, most bizarre people. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. Listen, I'll repeat what I was saying earlier. If you're going to do this, you have to understand, you have to have a couple of rules that you abide by. No, not beyond 72 hours. 72 hours is after you get it. You got to allow time for mailing. So it's 3 days mailing, 3 days after you get it to decide what you're going to do, 3 days return mail, 1 day for Sunday. That's where 10 days come from. Unless it's under like statute, like if you got the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, they got 20 days to respond. So if it's something governed by statute, you got to abide by that. Let's say you're blessed this guy. I'm sure I'm not ignorant. Proceeds to take due to ignorant. So you let him keep the bike. I mean, I didn't see. I wasn't home. Shit, the motherfucker got away. What I'm gonna do? I don't know where he at. I just seen him on the tape. My neighbor got him on the damn video camera. Stole the bike and everything. I like my new bike though. This is my new bike right here. It's a Trek bike. My new bike cold. Got me a new seat. Got my damn, My speed dynamometer. Got me a nice little bag and everything for my stuff. Got my combination lock. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like my new bike, man. It don't have the gear ratio that the FX. The FX3 is a better bike. It's a better bike. That FX3 is a better bike. But FX2, it get the job done. I like it. I'm a beginner biker, so I ain't one of these guys out here. These white boys be out here, man. Let me tell you something. Them niggas, boy, they got casts big as bowling balls, and they rolling past you, man. You have a group of them. I'm trying to get to that level because they be making me mad. They shoot past me with them specialized and all that. They be like, damn, I want to go. They got this biking game on lock. But I like biking, man. I like it. I like it. They be out here, man. I had a group of old white men pass by me, man. I'm biking hard. These dudes got to be at least 68, 70 years old. These niggas just all about 15 of them just flew past me. Just flew past me, man. That's when I knew I got to be on it. The woman with them too. The woman flying past you. I said, nah, I got to get out of here. But I've been out here every day. My game, I done got stronger. I have a 5K mountain bike. Hey, man, bikes get expensive. They nice. That's a nice bike. You got a 5K mountain bike. That's a nice bike. I'm into the bikes. My next bike, I'm gonna spin a grip on my next bike. But I gotta demonstrate that I'm on this shit every day. This is what I like to do. This is what I do on the weekend. I don't hang out at the clubs and the bars and all of that anymore. I like to be outside, ride my bike, doing things like that now. I didn't really got into that, being in nature. And instead of sitting somewhere drinking some liquor that's not good for your health, or eating some food that's not good for you or something like that, spend your time out here. That's why I come out here and live stream. Because then, I got to go out here and live stream. But at the same time, when I get through live streaming, I got to ride my bike back to get home. I got to ride the bike to get back home. About 10 miles straight. I got what? I got about 13 more miles to go. All out acceptance at first. If they refuse my tender dishonor, I'm conditionally accepting. If they refuse my all out acceptance, that's when I'll switch to conditional acceptance. Because they got to have a reason for their refusal. And so, I'll give the reasons. There's only 4 possible reasons that they could refuse your tender. That's if there is some sort of defect in the instrument, which they got to allow you an opportunity to cure. That they just haven't gotten around to applying the credit. That they lost the instrument, or if they have applied the credit and just haven't notified you yet. Let's see. He said, okay, well, they failed to reply to my affidavit of truth, negative of veerment, and agreement lacks their signature. Well, an affidavit of truth an unrebutted affidavit just became a fact. That doesn't constitute the matter. You just got an agreement on the facts. That's why you are using a notary as a witness to certify the fact that they didn't respond. So the notary is the keeper of the record of the facts, not of the law. The judge is the one that issues the ruling on the law. So you have facts and law. You can't get to the law until we have an agreement of what the facts are. You have facts and law. Your attorneys say that there's no basis in that in law or fact. You hear them say that shit all the time. Well, if you have a material issue of fact, that's why you go before a fact trier and go into fact finding, okay? Because we don't know what law to apply till we know what the facts are. And the facts in law is not just because you say it's a fact. The fact in law is when you have a stipulation between the parties, agreement of the parties. They agree to what the facts are. That's why you do an administrative process. You're trying to get down to what we agree what the facts are before we get to court. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 5:25, agree with your adversary on your way to court. At least he hand you over to the judge hand you over to the bailiff, and the bailiff casts you into prison. I tell you, we're not coming out until you pay the very last penny. That's in there. He's not talking about kiss somebody's ass. He's saying, look, you got to have the facts agreed to before you go into the court. Because you don't want to go into a fact finding because you're going to get seriously prejudiced by the court when you go in there and try to fact find. You're going against an attorney that worked for the state, the judge worked for the state, the bailiff worked for the state, the sheriff worked for the state. You know what I'm saying? And they rules. Does the color of the pen that notaries use matter? There's some esoteric symbolism behind the pen. Some people say, like a red pen, it indicates blood, but then some people say a red pen indicates that you're in debt, like in the red. I know for a fact that what reason why all the banks went to a blue pen is because they lost the case where they had signed all the documents in black ink and they couldn't produce the originals. So that's why when you go into a bank now, they make you use a blue pen. And they say that, that blood is blue in the body, and then when it hits oxygen, it turns red. A lot of different things you hear around that. You got what's called what is this? This kind of paper, the color of the paper, and all of that. You can, if you want to really read into that, you can read into chapter 7 of dealing with presentments. They have a whole chapter on the color of pens. Whole chapter on color of pens and dealing with presentments. The 7th section. That's all it's talking about, all the esoteric stuff. L, is there a number or email for SBC trying to get back in? You go over to SBC University. There's a pop-up right there, sbcuniversity.com. Wait for a second. There's going to be a chat that's going to pop up, a window in the right-hand corner, or you can click on it, and my customer service agent is right there, and she will help you. I appreciate the 10 bones. I appreciate all the donations today, man. I appreciate that. So what's the sheriff's posted notice? I immediately sent the court a motion to quash for improper service, but the clerks rejected the documents multiple times, claiming they were defective. Yeah, you probably were. You probably know what you were doing, because clerks only go by form. That's why I tell all of y'all, if you want to learn how to file paperwork, get you a forms and pleadings book. Matthew Bender makes one. That's what I did. That's how I learned. I never had a clerk, never in my life have I had a clerk tell me my paperwork is defective. Not once. Never. Because I know how to put it together in proper form. Get you a forms and pleadings book and learn how to put your paperwork together properly, instead of just trying to rawly just do that shit off the top of your head. They denied securitization on title loans, so just challenge them. Well, I mean, they can deny anything they want. I mean, what do you mean they denied securitization? Almost anything's been securitized nowadays. I don't know exactly what that means. What are we talking about? Securitization of what, a mortgage? They securitize almost everything. And how does that have anything to do with lawful or not? They got something what's called a true sale. I want you to study. If you're dealing with securitization and you're going to challenge that, the basic thing that you should be challenging is whether or not a true sale was made that transferred the collateral into, what is it, special purpose vehicle or whatever like that. That's where the argument, that's what's going to be central of the argument, whether or not it was a true sale. What type of rights you retained, because do you have any rights? And you do retain rights. And your right, the number one right you retain is the right of set off. If you get a car contract and look at it, they have something on there called a claims and defense notice. That's put out by the Federal Trade Commission. It's called the holder in due course rule. Another thing, a lot of people dealing with negotiable instruments, I don't hear anybody use those terms, holder in due course versus holder. That lets me know they don't know what they're doing, because that's central to anything you're dealing with negotiable instruments. Who is the holder and who is the holder in due course? The holder in due course has all the rights. Instead of there are like 10 real defenses that can go against him. Am I an attorney? In fact, I am. It says, when they ask you if you understand, say you don't know, they will ask you 3 times. My lawyer paid everything, then the case disappeared of docs. Yeah, they do everything in 3s. I recently had to get a form notarized and went to the passport office because it said must be signed by an authorized passport agent, and the director of consular affairs signed it in red. I don't know, it's like that right there. I think the underlying thing is, to make sure that it's an authentic document, that it's original. Black ink is going to be hard to tell because anything photocopied is in black. But, people sign in red, purple, or blue. They do. People sign documents in red. People sign documents in blue. People sign documents in purple. Purple means royalty. Red could indicate a debtor. Blue, like I said, get dealing with presentments. And right there in the 7th chapter, that whole section is dealing with the color of pens and paper and all that type of shit. Let's see. You help people understand legal issues. No, I don't help people understand legal issues. I help people assert their private rights. I don't want to be anything. I don't want to be in the legal arena. That's for attorneys. We the people of this country. This is a government for the people and by the people. We the sovereigns, and the sovereign is the lawgiver. That's why the legislature, they pass laws based off what we want. What we want, not what they want. It was a template provided online by the court. Anyway, can I do anything now to restore what was taken? Any thoughts? Yeah, it's always something. You only lose when you give up. That's when you lose. You give up. First one to lose the battle, leave the battlefield loses. So, like I said, I don't know if they got something defective in their process. That's the first thing I'm gonna look at, was something defective in their process. You said it was ineffective, improper service of process. So that'd be the first thing I'm gonna attack, and then I'm gonna file a demand to vacate order for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. You can attack subject matter jurisdiction at any time. Get you another court date, and then go back into court. Have you invoked exclusive equity? I don't know what you mean invoke. I don't know why they say exclusive equity. The district courts, you invoke the jurisdiction. So yes, you can invoke that. Right now, if you get dealing with presentments, they got a bill in equity right in there that you can look at. It's always been in equity. Like I said, I can tell the people that follow me, I've been saying that for 10 years. Y'all don't read none of the documents I tell you to read. Hey, if you file a motion in the court, does that grant jurisdiction? Yes, a motion is a request. Of course it grants jurisdiction. Anytime you file a motion, it tells you that if you look at making an appearance means subjecting yourself to the jurisdiction of the court. Look up the definition of the word in Black's Law Dictionary. It tells you that. You file a motion or any paperwork or take any action, it constitutes an appearance. Your conduct can be an appearance. Like I said, you talking back and forth to the judge. Attorneys usually file what's called a notice of entry of appearance into a case. It says, what is Darnell Brooks' trial to see how far the sovereign citizen nonsense like subject matter jurisdiction goes? Well, I could already tell Tom C is some asshole who came in here. Darnell Brooks, he allegedly, I don't know if he killed somebody or something like that, and he was using that as a last-ditch effort to try to defend himself, and he wasn't wrong in a lot of things that he was saying. He probably most likely can win on appeal. He made a lot of mistakes. Most of the times you're going to win on appeal. Let me tell you something. I got somebody right now just got themselves out of federal prison. You want me to bring on here and do an interview with her? Since you're talking shit, Tom C? And and the federal government owes her some millions of dollars. And you know what she challenged? She challenged the nature and cause of the action. They didn't say what it was. Y'all talk that shit and everything like that, like the people don't have these, y'all try to make shit it ain't no sovereign citizen defense. That's another thing. Hey, y'all, I want y'all to go over to my website, SBC University, and I have a pleading over there that you can put in the court. And the next time one of these assholes in court start trying to use sovereign citizen, at no point do they have any evidence on the record that could attest under penalty of perjury that attests that you are a sovereign citizen. It is a slur. It prejudices you in the court, and we need to put a stop to it. We are the people. You have a right of self-representation. You have a right to ask these motherfuckers questions. And right now they're calling any pro se litigant that comes into the court a sovereign citizen. And you need to fight back with that shit, because it prejudices you in the court. They start trying to label you a sovereign citizen because you ask them what the jurisdiction is. And start filing claims against them with risk management. And you'll put an end to that shit they talk, because they forget they employees. They're not masters of a motherfucking thing. You an employee, motherfucker. Tom C on here talking shit. You know who you talking to? Y'all come over here talking shit like y'all the masters or something. Y'all ain't no motherfucking masters. This is the people that forgot. The people are sovereign. Y'all done made up this word sovereign citizen. I don't know what the fuck a sovereign citizen is. I can look in a lot of case law. We go to what is the case? I'm trying to think. I can think of the case in a minute. For the very first Supreme Court case ever, where they adjudicated that the people are sovereign. They done made this word up, sovereign citizen, talking shit. Y'all go over there on my website under my blog section. I got a pleading. Y'all put all that. I actually got a video on my channel right now. When you go into court, and as soon as they say that sovereign citizen shit, you put that shit on their ass. Because we got to stop them from saying that bullshit in court. trying to label you because they try to put labels on shit. And I'm gonna start doing reviews of these cases because they'll say some shit don't work. But the judge, they be usually, if you look at like these sovereign citizen fail cases, you know, they got somebody narrating it and he don't understand what's going on. Usually the individual is being very effective because the judge is just an administrator. They're just following, they have to do what they're told. They're not real judges. Tom C., do you believe that these judges at the state court level, and you think they real judges? A judge is a real judge has lifetime tenure and protection from salary diminution. They're not elected in the office and appointed and all that shit. The people are sovereign in this. I know that's what they try to act like you not. They try to act like you not sovereigns and shit. They made this word sovereign citizen. They know they gotta label you and shit. Gotta put a stop to that. Gotta put a stop to that bullshit. Put a stop. We are the sovereigns in this country. Them motherfuckers are employees. Put them on the bench. Take their jobs from them. Take their motherfucking job from them. If an attorney file a grievance with the Bar Association, they don't like that shit. Put a grievance on their ass. You got an attorney, go call the Bar Association, get a grievance. If you were sitting in jail, your attorney ain't seen you. They supposed to come and see you ever so often. They've been letting you sit in jail. You didn't pay this motherfucker. He ain't took your money. Put a grievance on his ass. Or if he's a public defender, get that nigga a letter of rogatory. Attorney letter of instruction. They'll call your ass immediately. And they won't be saying this shit that this motherfucker right here is saying. See if that sovereign citizen shit works. They ain't gonna show you nothing that work on YouTube, motherfucker. It's like, man, get out of here. This YouTube shit. Start learning how to file claims against them. Put them on the bench. Take their jobs from them. Take their livelihood from them. If they want to talk all this shit, because they forget you are an employee. We are the sovereigns. You serve us. We don't serve you. What about a protection against electronic signatures? Ain't no protection. Electronic signatures are lawful. Anything can constitute a signature if you agree to it. I don't have a problem with electronic signatures. I don't. I filed an attorney bar a grievance nearly a year later. They still haven't finalized the complaint. Well, I don't know what they're doing now, but they should. But you filing a complaint against them, they ain't gonna remove them or nothing, but they just don't like that on their record. That's all I'm saying. They don't like no grievance filed against them. They don't like that shit. So I've been trying to find out how to file a claim against them. You call your risk management. Call risk management and ask them. Damn, it's public information. Y'all be tripping. Call them and ask them. Just call them and ask them. You know how I do this. That's what you do. They public service. Why you asking me? Call them motherfuckers. Hey, how do I file a claim against somebody's, insurance? I got an insurance. That's all you're doing, an insurance claim. That's why it's called risk management. This motherfucker is not doing his job. Okay, he is a threat. He's a risk. He's gonna be a liability, and I'm just putting you on. I'm putting you up on game. And like anybody, they get enough claims filed against their bond, they're gonna lose their job. They become uninsurable for public service, and they can't get a job. That's what you take their job from them. They want to sit here and talk shit. They keep remind you, like a judge said, you trying to tell me what my job is? No, I'm trying to remind you of what your job is. Because you seem to have forgotten what your job is. Let me remind you of what your job is. They retaliate, punish, mock. Yeah, they do that. Call you paper terrorists. Some of y'all are. Because y'all try to file liens and shit, don't know what you're doing. That is paper terrorism. I'll agree with that, because, a lot of y'all try to file liens, don't know what you're doing. You don't have no business trying to file a lien on a public servant. He didn't do nothing. He was doing his job. It's very few instances you should be trying to put a lien on a public servant. I just said earlier, most of the time they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. You do have a couple of assholes out there now, like in anything. But for the most part, they're doing their job the way they're supposed to be doing. It's you who are not educated and don't understand. You ain't been properly educated because you've been dumbed down. You don't know the Constitution. What is Article 4, Section 4? We are guaranteed a Republican form of government. Do you even know what that means? Do you understand what freedom is? Do you understand what your right to contract unlimited, what that means? That can work for you or against you. You can contract. Did you even read your mortgage documents? Why would you, like 90% of y'all sign paperwork, don't even read it. 90% of you on here Sign contracts and don't read it. You don't read the contract when you bought the car. You don't sign the contract on the mortgage when you got the mortgage. You didn't read none of that shit. You didn't read that shit. You didn't read the contract when you got a driver's license. You didn't read that shit. Man, y'all need to stop, man. Y'all tripping. Y'all tripping, man. Y'all tripping. Y'all be contact these people. You ain't even read that shit. Get out of here. I can't even, motherfucker won't even read the rules to come in my goddamn Facebook group. They won't. You won't even take the time to look up a word. Motherfucker walk around talking about Sesta K Trust, ain't even looked it up, don't know what it means. They don't even know what the word means. They use that word every day, and then they try to talk about somebody's corrupt. Man, let me tell you something, man. If you are challenging somebody on something, and it's dealing with a contract or anything for that matter, and there are words involved that you don't know the meaning of, you don't have no basis for nothing, because you live in a time when you got the answer to everything at your fingertips, and now you got Chat GPT. You don't have no excuse, none. That's the problem. Nobody reads anything. If you don't read, you should just shut the fuck up. You just shut the fuck up. Don't say the government is doing anything corrupt, because what was said about black people years ago when they said, I think it was Carter G. Woodson said, he said, you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. That applies to all Americans today, not just black people. If you want to hide something from an American, if you want to hide something from a U.S. citizen, put that shit in a book. I think I'm going to change the name of this live today. If you want to hide something from a U.S. citizen, just put the shit in a book. The book says attendance to reading, 1 Timothy 4:13, till I come give attendance to reading, to exhortation and doctrine. I agree with that. Should unruled upon objection that has been accepted to on the record be handled by post-conviction relief. Yeah, that's why you object. Your objections is for the purpose of appellate purposes. On your objection, you're making a record, so you can have appellate review of all your objections. I appreciate the $19.99. I appreciate that. I appreciate the donations, man. I appreciate that. We take things for granted because of our casual lifestyle. Yeah, it said the good book says, can you talk about the Supreme Court case discussing the Sesta K brother? There are plenty of Supreme Court cases that talk about Sesta K Trust. All of them use it. It just means beneficiary. I don't know what to tell you. What are y'all talking about? We read case law in our SBC class on Tuesday and Thursday. Almost every case I read, they got that word in there. It's just another word that means beneficiary. I don't understand what's so complicated to understand about that. You listening to it say Sesta K Trust, you thinking in your mind, because you don't understand legalese or Latin, that is some kind of a trust. That just goes to show you don't understand legalese. Legalese is a strange language. I went to traffic court and the judge told me to sign the form about a registration for a vehicle that's not mine. It said plead guilty or no contest. I told her I could not sign this. Okay, or you can sign it with, something else, but yeah, don't sign it. I'd be lying. Yeah, don't sign it then. I agree with that. What volume of Black's Law Dictionary to use? All of them. I got all of them. I got 1 through 12. I got all of them. And Bouvier's. I learned all this with Black's Law 8th edition. Everything I learned, an 8th and a 7th. I didn't even use 4 and 6 and all that. But I will say that definitely older dictionaries, there are certain terms that are going to give you more information, like the word person, like there's no such word discharge debt. It's discharge of a contract. And you can get, Black's Law 4th edition looked up. So there are certain words, yeah. But then again, it depends on what you're doing, because the old dictionaries don't have anything related to, we live in an electronic age. So there's a lot of new terms that have been developed that, like the word property. Like property has a different meaning today as it did when y'all all had a allodial title. So what are you talking about? It's like, if I look at property in an older dictionary, it's really not going to have any application to today. And it tells you that. Where'd I get that from? Black's Law 8th edition. It says, I caught the judge on transcript discussing with the clerk if I got my exception on record and if I got it in before the next case. and he told me his DA to tell everyone to say all aboard to prevent. I don't know what that means. All I know is you're making a record. You're not there to have a discussion with them. You're there to make a record for yourself. I don't worry about what they're doing. I'm there to make a record. The judge is just a referee. He's supposed to be an unbiased arbiter in a dispute between two opposing parties. And he has a judicial code of conduct that he has to follow. All right. I could care less what they're saying. Anytime a judge is saying anything, you need to be cautious about that anyway, because judges are they're experts in psychology, and but there's almost anything a judge says out of his mouth, there's a purpose for it. He doesn't waste words. So any type of thing, you need to be on guard when you're dealing with a judge, because as soon as you say, well, you don't have jurisdiction over me, next series of words that come out of his mouth are going to be things he asking you to obtain jurisdiction to prove that he does have it. Do you work, do you have a job? Where do you live at? He start asking you shit like that, It's funny that some people just see a law dictionary instead of Black's Law Dictionary. Black literally means wicked. No, the dude's name is Henry Campbell Black. Please don't do stupid ass shit like that. The Black's Law Dictionary is named after the editor of it. His name is Henry Campbell Black. They named that's somebody's last name. All right? They don't have nothing. And black is the source of everything, because God came out of the void. I was just studying some Sufi information yesterday. Is when you go into deep meditation, light is the first element of creation. Before light, black is the source of the undifferentiated, where everything comes out of. Everything comes out of the void. All manifestation comes out of black. Black does not mean wicked. That's some bullshit. Whoever said that shit, man, Randall, you must be a white person say some stupid ass shit like that. Black means wicked. Black contains all colors, every color. White has all the colors of the electromagnetic spectrum. That's where you get light. And then when you put all of them together, they come into black, because white light comes out of the void. It's a frequency. So the void, black, is the source of everything. How can black mean wicked? The creator of the balanced universe resides in the void, black. He said, let there be light. How can black be wicked? Black don't mean no damn wicked. What y'all talking about? Everything in creation comes from out of black. Everything in manifest existence. That should be common sense too. How do you know whether there's an injured party or not from discovery? Well, they usually list them in the caption of the pleading. It's supposed to be an injury. And if there's an injury, or they listed somewhere. They got to identify the injury. Or you can ask them. How do you know? It says black means dead. No, black don't mean dead. All that old dumbass shit y'all saying. Y'all just ignorant, man. Sometimes you got to use your common sense. Why you can't understand what I'm saying? That everything comes out of the void. Why don't y'all just, why y'all think that? Because the school of thought, especially a lot of you Moors, the school of thought you come from is elementary school. A lot of you people like saying black means dead. Y'all neophytes. You're not as smart as you think you are, and you're not as learned as you think you are either. You're not as learned as you think you are. You are sitting here on a public platform demonstrating just how limited how myopic you are in your understanding of spiritual principles as well as esoteric principles. Well, the English language is not a language. English language is a composite of Latin, Greek, French. It's a hodgepodge of different languages. It's not a real language. Real languages, you get into Latin is a real language. Arabic is a real language. I ain't gonna say Hebrew is, because Hebrew, Arabic and Hebrew, there ain't really no such thing as word. Arab means to wander about, and Ibri means to cross over. Abraham came up out of Ur Chaldea, so we really talking about Chaldeic. And then when you get to the oldest languages on the planet, they Hebrew and hieroglyphics and cuneiform. It says, "God bless. Big up, bro. I wonder how to negotiate it with a bank to credit accounts for daily expenditures. I don't know what that means. What do you mean to go negotiate with a bank for daily expenditures? You go in there and ask them. How else you going to negotiate with them? I don't know what that means. What do you mean daily expenditures? I have no idea what you're talking about. None of this stuff is for you to set for your own self-aggrandizement. Where in HGR 192 does it allow you to negotiate it for a bank for your daily expenditures? You obviously missed the first half of this because y'all, like I was telling about earlier, 90% of y'all only interested in discharging debt because y'all broke. You don't know how to do business and you can't draw to yourself energy because money is just really energy. And you can't attract it to yourself because really the answer to your question is that you're supposed to imprint it on your subconscious mind and the way it will present itself to you. But ain't nothing in HGR 192 to talk about doing what you're doing. Nothing. I don't know where y'all get it from. Y'all make up a lot of shit. It says the Science of Love podcast was powerful. It was, but you see how few people watched it? You see how few people watched it? They ain't listen to that shit. That shit wasn't talking about discharging debt. They ain't finna listen to that shit. They want to know how to get some free shit, man. That's all they in this space for. Get some free shit. They're not interested in learning spiritual principles and keeping family together, the purpose of a trust, legacy. A righteous man leaves an inheritance for his son. They ain't interested in none of that shit. They just trying to get some free shit because they think that's gonna free them. But if they don't have no bills, when it's not gonna free them, that's like taking aspirin for a headache. It's not dealing with the cause. They just want to deal with the effect, and there's no power in the effect. All power is in the cause. Facts. Once I got money, I didn't care about discharging. Nobody does. Only people care about discharging broke people. I'm being honest. And it wasn't ever meant for that. Discharging debt was meant for you when you want to come out of the public and into the private. It wasn't meant for you to keep using a credit card, buying shit, and keep discharging credit card. None of that was meant because you got to add value. There's no such thing as something for nothing. It doesn't exist. The universe abhors a vacuum. So this is why Jesus said you have to give in order to receive. So even when the people come on there and they try to say something like, well, why do you charge for services? They demons. I look at them as demons. They're trying to shame you into something. It's like, no, you're a demon. You got to understand, like demons try to, they come in the form and try to be like self-righteous. Like they self-righteous. Oh, you charging for information. You doing this now. You're a demon, motherfucker, because you are going against the principles of God. You have to give in order. You come in here looking for a handout. Where is that in scripture? All right? You ain't no handout. You have to give in order to receive. Where is that in the teachings of Christ? Give a man a fish he can eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish he can eat for the rest of his life. That's your problem. You coming in here with that liberal mindset of that welfare mindset. Hey, what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. I see wickedness within Black's Law Dictionary due to how some of the words mean. Well, you're right, because if you choose to see wickedness, that's your right. I don't choose to see that. Because I don't see anything, because light, good and evil both come from the same source. There's only one source of everything. There's not two powers in the universe. There's only one. That's why everything has two sides. Everything in creation has two sides. Polarity is a natural law principle. So you choose to see the negative. I choose to see the positive. If you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. It's all what you choose to see. So if you choose to see negativity, that's what your life will be. Negative. I don't choose to see negativity. I choose to see positivity. So you're right. You choose to see black as something negative. I choose to see black as something positive. You create your reality. You want to see it that way, that's your choice. All right, so is the void a vacuum? He said, love and appreciate you, bro. Wish there were more like you. I appreciate you too, man. I appreciate that 9 to the 9th power of 9, brother. 9 to the 9th power of 9, the highest of all numbers is the number 9. There's no number higher than 9. Y'all know that? No number higher than 9. I appreciate that. Hello. I appreciate that, Red High, Levi. The void is the absence of matter. That's not the absence of matter. That's a damn lie. Now that right there is definitely a neophyte response. It's called undifferentiated. There is no, something can never come from nothing. Something can never come from nothing. The thing you call nothing is something. It just hasn't taken a form yet. This is what they call triple darkness. They call it chaos. And the Kabbalion, they call it the undifferentiated. It just hadn't taken form. Everything is composed of the same thing. Electrons, protons, neutrons, atoms, molecules, everything is composed of the same thing. It just hadn't taken form. God is a frequency, a very fast frequency that is vibrating so fast it appears to be still. So there's no such thing as nothing. No thing, something can never come from no thing. So the thing you're calling no thing is something, you just don't know what it is. Some people call it spirit. Some people call it the etheric. They get different names for it, but it's something. So you call it, it's not the absence of matter, it's the absence of matter that has taken form, some sort of recognizable form. Do you know anyone that has seen God? Yeah, you see God every time you look into your brother and sister's face. You're looking at God. It says in the Bible, no one's seen God, but then you have in the book of Leviticus, see, the reason y'all get confused on that is because this word God is a new term. You know, so, you know, like in Lot, was it Lot or was it Abraham to say, I shook God's hand as if a man shaketh another man's hand? But then you have other places in the Bible that say no man has seen God. Well, that's confusion because that gets into interpretation because there is no word God. The word is Elohim or Adonai, El Shaddai, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh. Some of y'all like to say Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, Yahab, Wahab. You know, these are the words that are being used and you understand really what those words are saying. Say, I'll just translate it all as God or Lord. Yeah, they are called apostles and disciples. Yeah, I just found y'all look up the meaning of words going back to Sumerian words or spells, and that's why we spell them. Well, I mean, you can say that if you want to. A spell don't mean it's necessarily bad. Some people call them formulas. You know, y'all call them spells. I prefer the word formula. You're gonna do a formula. You know, formulas are, you know, they're not good or bad. It's just it's the intention behind the person who wields them. It says, but then it says, no man have seen God anytime, say he that is God. John 6:4. Not that any man that has seen. Yeah, I know, I'm very familiar with that. But you got portions in the Bible where it says a man shook God's hand if another man shake another man's hand. You know, Moses looked up on the face of God. You know, you got different things in there like that, you know. But really, at the end of the day, God said, I put my spirit into man. He became a living soul. So every time you look into your brother's eyes, you're looking into the face of God. You putting God into a place. Well, the problem with y'all is y'all anthropomorphize God when God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present. But y'all want to turn God into a man and put him in his creation up into the cloud somewhere. That's why y'all think the way that you do, that nobody has seen God when God is everywhere. There's nowhere that God is not. You the one to want to make God in your image and after your likeness. God is like a universal mind that's encompassed in all things. The more science you speaking and not a more, you don't tell me I'm not a more, nigga. Who is you? You ain't no authority over nothing. Who y'all think you not a more? You know, y'all need to shut the fuck up with that. You have no authority. You know authority on who's a more and who's not a more. Had to get the fuck out of here with that shit. Oh, dumbass shit. You tell me I'm not a more. Y'all more science. Y'all stole the Quran Circle 7 from Pastor Levi Dowling, the Aquarian Gospels. Let's talk about that. You ain't no more science. You stole that from a white man. Ain't your science. You don't have no science. What are you talking about? Don't get me started on you, man. Sitting there coming at time I'm not a more. You ain't either. Y'all just claimed something. Y'all claimed nationality. You ain't got no proof. You claimed it. Ain't got no truth, no proof of what you saying. You talking about? Don't make me go off on you, man. I know all about your organization. Talking about somebody is not a more. The word El don't have nothing to do with more science. Gabriel, Ezekiel, Uriel, Raphael. You trying to say those are Moors? You trying to say those are all Moors? Daniel. Uriel. The angels of Moors, huh? Yeah, right. Get the hell out of here. Arabic existed way before any type of Moorish science ever existed. I don't know what you're talking about. Just because my name is Yusuf, that's just Arabic. And you don't have no authority. Moorish science don't have no authority over anything. Y'all just made a little agreement with the government. Y'all have no authority over who's a Moor and who's not. At all. Considering public and private don't mix, do you believe the U.S. Census can be utilized as an extension into the private if one can properly protect themselves under private law? No. I don't think so. Public and private don't mix. Child of God, affiliation, house of the Lord. This is why I am beyond cliques, groups, and religious groups. He ain't steal nothing from the prophet. They gonna listen. Oh, he stole it from the prophet. Okay, now he gonna start that lie. Okay, all right. I ain't gonna say. I already know you don't know nothing. You say that he stole it from the prophet. Huh? Okay. So it ain't yours. You know, if I want to learn more science, I can read the Aquarian Gospels. I ain't got to read the Quran Circle 7. I'll just read the original, where he got it from. I had to read the Quran Circle 7. Just read the Aquarian Gospels. That matter of fact, tell you the truth, has more information in it than the Quran Circle 7 does. Even though Quran Circle 7 is a good book. It's a good book. Y'all don't proselytize it on the internet. Y'all just run around talking about if you claim nationality. Y'all never teach that nothing from it. It says some dude has a paper out about changing nationality and ethnicity using census. Look, people make up shit all the time. If you want to run with it, that's fine. Y'all all over the place. The truth is simple. That's why I say start with public and private. The truth is simple. Y'all, you know, listen, I've been doing this 20 years. Every single year, new people have come with something new. And the original shit that started it all was Secure Party. That's what started it all. But everything else, these new products. And you know why? Because it's all commercial. And you looking for a way to get away. See, them processes y'all trying to do, y'all trying to find a way to be in a business world, but not be liable in it. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be in the business, the corporate world, but find some way not to be liable for it. And public and private don't mix. That's why none of that shit works, what you're doing, because you know basic, simple principles. Public and private don't mix. And everything in the public is about a taxation. Now, I don't listen to none of that shit. They come up with something new all the time. I see that shit. I'm like, man, what is this new bullshit somebody came up with? It's some bullshit. It's some bullshit. It's some bullshit that they come up with processes because they're trying to be a guru. They're trying to get people to follow them. They're trying to find something to sell you. That's why they come up with new shit. And so they have to develop something new and then garner your attention and then sell it to you. Then when you find out it don't work, then you move on to something else. That's been the same process for the last 20 years. Everything is commerce unless you live off the grid. That's absolutely correct. Everything is commerce unless you live off the grid. That is absolutely correct. Everything is commerce unless you live off the grid. See, I'm not, somebody say something true, I agree with them. That's true. Like the Moorish Science Temple, they incorporated under the Religious Incorporation Act in Chicago, Illinois. If you look at Noble Drew Ali's paperwork, the information, the wording he has in there was taken straight out the statute. Straight out the statute. You said, please keep this live up. I will. Why choose one or the other? We need to know both. We are all in the pub. You do. Nobody said choose one or the other. I just said it don't mix. I don't know where y'all got that shit that you got to be in one or the other. If you in the public, know how to do business. If you're not conducting business, you're being private. But if you're going to be in the public conducting business, they make the rules. You're not changing the rules. And you got to learn how to operate in the public. That's all I'm saying. Ain't nobody saying you got to be all private or all public or anything like that. You just need to know when you're in one or the other how to operate. There's no rule that says you got to be private. They made that shit up. The rule is public and private don't mix. That's all that's ever been said. That's why in the secure party process, you get a 9-8 number and 4-5 numbers. You form in corporate entities so you can operate. The thing is, you want to stop using the social security number because it's like a corporate soul, and a corporate soul is the worst entity you can have because it has all the liability. It's about liability in the public. You're either going to limit your liability or eliminate your liability. And you eliminate your liability by operating through a private trust, because anything you own, you're liable for. And that's why they say own nothing, control everything. It's not about ownership, it's about control. It's never about ownership. You don't want to own shit. You want to control it. You don't want to own it. It's like, well, you don't own a straw man. I don't want to own a straw man. I want to control it. I want to own it. Yeah, I want to control it. Yeah, agency is something good. Agency is definitely something that would benefit a lot of people. I agree. Learning agency. I don't have no problem with that. Definitely. Agency is definitely an important subject, to understand. Agency is definitely important. Definitely. I agree. Merger of law and equity. Yeah, they merged law and equity. Y'all go back to the that happened in 1938 under the Erie versus Tompkins Railroad decision. And you go back to the commerce courts. They merged those with the U.S. district courts. Y'all go study the commerce courts and find out what happened to them. Yeah, Rip Gwen Wyckoff, one of my mentors. Very sad. I want to give a shout out to her. She was a beautiful woman. Shared a lot of information with me, invited me into her home, showed me a lot. Very beautiful woman, Gwen Wyckoff, and we really lost a jewel when she passed away. She wrote the book Passing Bucks, The Art of Passing Bucks 1 and 2. I'm going to do some of my trust classes from those books, So after we get through what we're doing next, that's going to be the next books I'm going to be teaching from is her books, because she left us some jewels. The Art of Passing Bucks, I'm going to be utilizing those as like a school book for us to learn from. It's part 1 and part 2. If we put on different personas to act our roles, they call us psychopaths. I don't know why. They do it all the time. They have a corporation. It's an alter ego. They operate through corporations all the time. And then they try to tell you can't. You need to do a new class on SBC regarding getting that 4-5 number, because I believe you know what they might have. I might need to go and incorporate something and see about getting a 4-5 number. Cause I haven't gotten one in a while. I admit, I hadn't had to get one. So I might need to. I've had a couple of people come to me and talk about, but I don't understand why. It's a 4-5 number just means you got it off the internet. You don't have to call in. It's got it off the internet. 4-5 means you got it off the internet. The first 2 digits just tell where you got it from. 9-8 means you got it from Philadelphia, the Philadelphia campus. That's all it means. So you get a 4-5 number, you don't even have to talk to nobody. So I don't understand that. Let's see. Can I get a declaratory judgment on district court? Yeah, if you invoke it. What do you need? Declaratory judgment is an equitable remedy. That's something usually we use in trust when you have a dispute about something, that the meaning of a contract or an indenture agreement or something like that. You give it to a judge, and he'll declare what the law of the contract is. If there's some sort of ambiguity or the meaning of something, you get a declaratory judgment to get some sort of clarity on exactly the meaning of something or the rights of the parties. So Chancery Court is the same as U.S. District Equity. Chancery is where equity came from, man. What are y'all talking about? I ain't never heard no word U.S. District Equity Court. You invoke equity. Law and equity was merged. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to say that, yeah. The equity courts come from the Chancery courts, which come from religion, because God judges with equity. God judges with equity. Interest. I'm going to do my research on the Aquarian Gospels. I never heard that before. Appreciate the perspective. You're welcome. Agency, as in, I am the agent of the strawman, especially when signing. What do you think about Trump's latest executive order? I don't know what it is. Tell me what it is. I don't have a problem with it. That's what they do. Executive orders is for his employees. They're not for you. And it's like he's a general of the military. And military generals give orders to their troops. So I mean, You know, if it's within the ambit of his delegated authority under Article 2 of the Constitution, he is well within his power to do it. I don't have a problem doing anything. As long as he's following the Constitution, I have nothing to say about any executive order that he does. I could care less, personally. Because as long as they stay in the ambit of the U.S. Constitution, what does that have to do with me? What does anybody in government exercising the delegation of their authority under the Constitution have anything to do with a private citizen? Somebody tell me that. What is this right here? Somebody just, it says, I appreciate the $10. Does what you speak only apply to USA, or can it be applied to any country using UCC codes like Aruba or Belize? I mean, yeah, the law merchant is worldwide. So if it's dealing in commerce, yeah. You know, I was over in Poland, and it's not called a UCC in other countries, so they have different names for it. But the UCC is in there. I was over in Germany and helped some guys find it over in Poland. It's called something completely different. You know, it's complete, but everybody has it because everybody deals with securitization because there's no money. The whole world is bankrupt. So in every country, they're using debt notes. Any country that's using debt notes, yeah, is applicable. The whole world is bankrupt. Usually you're wise beyond your years. I don't know about that. I'm almost 60 years old, man. How am I wise beyond my years? I'm almost 60 years old, man. I'm getting up there. You always talk down on the prophet. I ain't never talked down on the prophet. I didn't talk down on the prophet. I had to check you because you trying to talk down on me. And I don't talk down on the prophet because the prophet Noble Drew Ali is dead. He's been dead. I don't worship another man. You can do that. We gods. Gods don't worship. Where is the new Noble Drew Ali? That's what I'm looking for. Y'all want to worship a dead man. That's your problem. That's not mine. I say the same thing about Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Them niggas is dead. We don't need no dead leaders. We need some new living leaders. Y'all just don't have the balls to pick up the mantle and take that. And a prophet is someone who brings a scripture. So the word prophet didn't really apply to Noble Drew Ali. Y'all call him that. He's not a Nabi. There were 7 major prophets, and he was not one of them. Y'all just gave him that title. So I'm not talking down on anybody. I'm just telling the truth. And you don't like it exposed, but you're going to come and tell me I'm not no more. So don't throw stones in glass houses. Don't come at me. I'm not the one. Just don't come at me with some bullshit. I ain't talking down on anybody. Where are the new leaders? Y'all want to worship dead men. I say the same thing about Marcus Garvey. I say the same thing about Clarence 13X. Y'all got people who are dead. Okay? They dead. They are dead. All the things that they were teaching were basic principles that existed before they even came along. They just echoing a universal truth that goes all the way back to Egypt. Why do I need to worship them? I was listening to a Sufi tape last night, and I think I'll get more than from that than I'll ever get anything from the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple. The Moorish Science Temple got principles that are universal that you find in other religious esoteric sects. They ain't got nothing unusual. You know why? Because there's only one truth. There's not no multitude of truths. There's only one truth. And there are people who try to teach it in different ways. That's all. So when you learn the principles of nature, I can look at your teachings and I will put either a seal of approval on it, or I'll give it a thumbs up or thumbs down based off of whether or not it contains those principles. And if it doesn't, I don't owe any type of respect to it because it's not true. Something is either true or it's not true. That's it. Y'all the one made up these terms that try to dissect things, and y'all the ones that are into division. Dividing things. That's why y'all don't have no harmony or anything, because some of y'all want to be Moors, some of y'all want to be Hebrew Israelites, some of y'all want to be Christians, some of y'all want to be Sunni Muslims, some of y'all want to be Hebrews, some of y'all, y'all just split it up when there's only one truth. But you're going to attack me because I'm saying that, but I don't care, because I was sent from the light. And I wasn't sent to bow down to none of y'all organizations. None of them. Can you demand a corporation for a full accounting to ensure the ledger of both sides? Yeah, they go to UCC. They got demand for an accounting right there in the UCC. Google it. I forgot the code section. Got it right there in the UCC. Demand for an accounting. Just put in UCC, demand for an accounting, and get the code. There's no teacher and there's no pupil besides yourself. Well, a true teacher doesn't try to indoctrinate a person. A true teacher tries to bring a student into a state of realization because all the answers are already present within him. So he's just a guide, like a Mahdi. He's a guide to trying to guide you into a self-realization of who you truly are. And what you truly are is your God. And gods don't worship. That's what these fools who be following all these different people, they worship us. And then they want me to respect them. I don't respect you because your person who came to you was trying to show you how to be a God, and you got down on your knees, start prostrating before him. Same thing with the Christians. They did that with Jesus. Ain't nowhere in the Bible Jesus told you to worship him. They do the same thing. They ain't no different. The age of Aquarius will divide the people, keeping the real from the fake. It will. We in the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is the pouring out of information. That's what it represents, pouring out. And you have it because you basically having Akashic records by having the internet and then ChatGPT. You literally have a physical Akashic records in your possession. Show honor as honor is due. I do show honor as honor is due. And I'm going to show it as long as it's shown to me. Noble Drew Ali ain't no better than I am. He a man just like me. So is Martin Luther King. So is Malcolm X. So is Elijah Muhammad. They men just like I am. I have a spirit of God in me just like they did. And God is always sending his people. Y'all, what you think he stopped sending people after they got killed? That's what you think? You think he just stopped sending people? You know, because after they got killed, he just stopped, huh? He didn't send no more of his people to come and wake y'all up. He just sent them and they died. Ain't nobody got sent since then. Nah, people have gotten sent. You just don't listen. And you want to worship. And you forever stagnant in your school of thought. It's like y'all forever want to stay in the third grade. You don't never want to elevate yourself. If you're still in one of those organizations, in my opinion, you're still in elementary school or middle school or something like that, because you still want to be a part of a man-made organization, as if God put a sanction on that. The creator of the boundless universe, everybody has a direct connection. I don't need an intermediary. No one needs an intermediary between me and the creator of the boundless universe. I already have my connection. I don't need somebody to intermediate for me. I don't need a preacher. I don't need a rabbi. I don't need a sheikh. I don't need any of that as an intermediary between me and the creator of the boundless universe. I don't need that. Just like most don't know the three major religions are Semitic, blindly following, see a tree, miss the forest. They are Semitic, that's true. That's what I was saying earlier about language. Arabic is a Semitic language. Hebrew is a Semitic language. Those Semitic languages. English is not a Semitic language. English ain't even a real language. That's why all words have multiple meanings. It's a hodgepodge of different, it's a melting pot of different languages. That's what English is. Everything you speak is in the science. I know it's in the science. Because what? I know the science. And it's not just in the science. It's in other sciences too. I know it's in there. I don't discount it. Y'all just don't teach it. But yeah, it's in there. But it's in other, I can read it in the Sufi teachings. I can read it in the Kabbalah. I can talk to a witch and she knows some of the science. There are witches that know the science. There are magicians that know the science. There are shamans that know the science. There are people who practice hoodoo who know the science. Santeria who know the science. Egyptian mystery magic that know the science. Those are just names. The science is universal. It's just different people giving names. They all practicing this, utilizing the forces of nature in their own way. Because that's ultimately what we're talking about. We're talking about nature. Because the evidence of God is in nature and the natural laws. And your ability to manipulate those laws. That's what makes you a God. Now, I ain't going to say the Talmud. The Talmud is like a hadith. You got the hadith in the in the Islamic circles, they have the Hadith, and then they have the Quran, and then the Jews, they have the Torah, and then they have the Talmud, and then the Christians have the same thing. They have the Injil, which is the book of Jesus, and then they have the Gospels. The Gospels is like a Hadith. What I mean by Hadith are books written by people who said they were there and said what they said what Jesus did. They weren't, you know, like when, like the Quran, the Hadith, they said the Sahaba, the Prophet Muhammad, they wrote the Hadith. They, you know, but it's not the Quran. Even in the Quran, it says, after you read this book, Kitab, what a Hadith will you put your faith in? It's in the Quran, but they have a Hadith. But they don't translate it like that in Arabic. You got to learn Arabic. They translate the word Hadith as Kitab, book. So if you look at a Yusuf Ali translation and you got the Arabic on one side and the English, you got to learn Arabic so you can see how they mistranslate in their books too. They do the same thing that people in the Bible do. Same thing going on in Christianity is going on in Islam. Don't sleep. There's prejudice and everything going on in their religion too, just like it is in Christianity. It says you have to attune yourself to receive truth. Follow won't fix that. It says, what's the story about Ish and Islam? Why do people make a big deal? I don't know. You talking about one of the wives of the Prophet Muhammad? So your concern is that they are following the Constitution. That's what you said, right? Yeah, they follow the Constitution. Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, majority of the time they are. They're doing it right. That's what you said. Okay, then please tell me how many justices are to be on the Supreme Court for the United States. It doesn't put a limit on the justices of the Supreme Court. Where is that in the Constitution? I don't understand. What are you saying? Show me that in Article 3. It says you pray like the Muslims, Brother Yusuf. No, I don't do Salat 5 times a day. The reason that prayer was introduced, the reason that the Salat was introduced is so you can, what they were trying to teach y'all is they trying to teach you the power of the subconscious mind. That's why you're doing your prayers. So a lot of the different ways you're doing things like prayer works. It does work. It works. Not for the reason many of you think, but it works. What you're doing is you are programming the subconscious mind. So no, I don't need to do Salats 5 times a day or anything like that. I don't have to do that. Just like I don't have to stand and pray like they do in Christianity or anything like that. What's the science behind that is the question I would ask you. What is the science behind it? Who is Allah? Who is God? You know, answer me that. What is your conceptualization of Allah? Is Allah, you know, is he a person, place, or thing? Most of these people that teach today, it says justice, how can the executive alter the number of justices in the executive branch? I don't know. You show me the Constitution. First of all, let me say this. You have the Judiciary Act. Okay, there's a difference in the Supreme Court of the United States and you have a U.S. Supreme Court and you have a Supreme Court of the United States of America. Do you understand the difference between those two things? Do you understand the difference in a U.S. Supreme Court and the Supreme Court for the United States of America? And do you understand what the Judiciary Act was for? Do you understand what an act is? See, we had to ask those questions first before we can get an act, because you ask how. They don't hide nothing that they do. They don't hide anything that they do. Can we get a definition of due process of law? That's what procedures are for. Procedures are put in place to ensure that there aren't any constitutional violations. Where'd I get that? You read United States Code right there in the beginning of it. That's what they tell you. It's reviewed by the Supreme Court justices. That's why you have procedures. Everything in the public deals with procedure. Procedures are put in place. If they follow procedure, there's no constitutional violations. And as long as they follow procedure, that's what gives them immunity. Trump didn't give anybody immunity. Y'all keep talking about Trump is giving them immunity. He didn't give them immunity, man. All he's saying is, as long as they act within the ambit of their delegated authority, they are immune. Meaning they follow procedure. Procedures, you got to understand the reason for procedures. Everybody in the public follows a procedure. The court administrators, the police officers, everybody. Everybody follows a procedure. It doesn't. I don't even know where that question came from. You just asked me a dumbass question. Just read the Constitution. That's why I say read the Constitution. They got what's called implied powers. I'll give you this. Where does it come from? It's called implied powers. Go study implied powers of the Constitution. Go study implied powers. That's your answer. Allah equal arm, leg, arm, leg. That's a 5% of teaching. We are gods. That's where peace to the gods come from. The 5%ers, they the one to coin that phrase. That's a 5% of teaching right there. Arm, leg, arm, Allah. That's 5% of teaching. Nation of the 5%ers. There's supposed to be 3 separate but equal branches of government. The executive can do anything to the judicial. No, they can't, but they have what's called delegation of powers doctrine. See, that's what you don't understand, is you have a constitution for the United States and you have a U.S. Constitution. When they created that corporate government, they delegated authority. This is what you have to understand, delegation of powers doctrine. Just go study that for me, please. It's called delegation of powers doctrine. Go study that, please, so you can understand what you're saying. Ultra-virus means outside their power. They don't act ultra-virus all the time. No, they don't. No, they don't. See, somebody, when they say shit like that, they're just going to show me they just not civically educated. You probably a liberal. You want them victim-minded people. They don't act ultra-virus all the time. Ultra-virus means acting outside of their authority and their power, and they don't. You just not educated. Like I said, you're not educated. You don't understand what delegation of powers is. You probably don't even know what separation of powers is. You talking about they acting outside the authority. You don't. But listen, 90% of the people in this movement, they're not civically educated. They not. They just a whole bunch of people walking around with this victim mindset, thinking somebody did something wrong to them. Y'all motherfuckers won't even read. I know that y'all don't know what you're talking about because I'm in this, and 90% of you don't read. Hell, 90% of you won't even look up the meaning of a word. You just learned a new word, ultra-virus. You want to throw it around. He said 210 regarding request for accounting. Request for guardian. Yeah, that's it right there. Collateral statement of account. Yeah, that's it. That's it. 9210. It says, understand just fine. What they didn't do is lawfully disclose through the principle, which is the people. I don't know what that means. What you trying to say? Being locked up, growing up, taught some of us ward civics, and it should be principle for the space. But again, I don't know what that means. It should be. You see. Well, I just talked about the Judiciary Act. The Judiciary Act. Okay, I'll explain the Judiciary Act. The Constitution establishes the Supreme Court, not the Judiciary Act, because we have separation of powers. What they did was, Congress, they have their own court system. That's under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9. So the Judiciary Act established the U.S. Supreme Court to act as in a appellate capacity to their decisions. But if you do any type of cursory examination or study into the subject, you will find that the Congress does not have to allow the Supreme Court to review any of their decisions if they don't want to. Why? Because of separation of powers. So they do it as a courtesy. All right. So they established this Judiciary Act. As a matter of fact, if you get a Supreme Court analysis and interpretation of the Constitution, if you do a deep dive into that, you will find that the original Supreme Court justices questioned that. They said, how can a judge wear 2 hats? How can I be under Article 3 and also Article 1? The judge is wearing 2 hats. He's acting in a constitutional capacity, but also when he acts in his appellate capacity, he's doing that through what is called a delegation of powers doctrine, which is what the Judiciary Act is. They're delegating power to the Supreme Court justices to come over and act. So when a Supreme Court justice is sitting in an Article 1 court, he's not there as a judicial officer. That's why you have in the dictionary, whenever a judge is enforcing a statute, he's an administrator, not a judge. That's why that's in there. They just wanted to talk, and y'all are focused about the wrong. They are just focused on the wrong. They just want to prove me wrong, and they're not going to be able to do that. Because I've been doing this for 20 years. You people have very big imaginations, yet you all do is just talk. Can you give an example when they follow procedure, like when they use force versus constitution protected right? Yeah, I'll give an example. Like, let's talk about uh, a driver's license. Like, you refusing to take like in California. Like, when I went to California, I went 5 years without a driver's license. I was doing that right to travel shit for like about 5, 6 years, some shit like that. And I had business. I'm doing business. I became a businessman. I started a business. It's growing big, and it was getting difficult to do business without some identification in the public. So I went to the DMV in California to get a driver's license. And this is back when they had the paper contract. And I read the contract. And I read that shit, and I'm like, nah, I'm not getting this shit. And I walked out. I didn't get. I've never had a California driver's license, and so and never got pulled over there either. Never got pulled over in California. Like 5, 6 years, never got pulled over. Nothing ever happened to me in California. All right, so then um, I see on the news somebody get pulled over, and he refused to take a breathalyzer. So they snatched him out of the car and took him down to the station and strapped him into a chair and made him take a breathalyzer. And all the people were complaining about, oh, this is unconstitutional. However, in the contract for a California driver license, it explicitly states you get this license, you agree to take a breathalyzer whenever requested to do so. So once again, that was contracts trump the Constitution, because that's why they have a clause in there, the contract clause that says no state can make any law that will infringe on the obligation of contracts. So they can't make a law that will infringe. That's a contract you sign. So you keep talking about the Constitution, where when you need to be talking about is contracts, because contracts supersede the Constitution, and that's what they use on you every day. And so they whooped his ass. Y'all was claiming about, it was unconstitutional, and I was like, that motherfucker didn't read the contract. That's all I was sitting there thinking. That motherfucker didn't read the contract. Yo, it's unconstitutional. Oh, this is unconstitutional. They whooping his ass. It's like, this is on topic. Puerto Rico isn't U.S. state. Puerto Rico is U.S. territory. Puerto Rico really is called Americans, the same way someone from New York. No, Puerto Ricans, they fall under the same umbrella that the residents of Washington, D.C. fall. They're in a territory. That's a territory. Puerto Rico is a territory. Is that both of them, can you drive and not get arrested by the state? Okay. No, listen, I'm finna go. I gotta go. I've been on here 2 hours. Y'all questions, y'all finna get into a whole bunch of shit I don't even want to talk about right now. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the donations. I gotta get back on my bicycle. As you can see, I'm here biking. Gotta get back on my trek bike. I'm at the lake. So I'm gonna get back on my bike. I got another 13 miles to do. And what I would suggest that you do, I got a whole bunch of videos on here. If you have an answer or questions about something, you can get on here and ask the question. I mean, I got a whole bunch of videos about all that. If y'all new to me, I got a video on this channel that's answering your question. I didn't talk about the Judiciary Act, Trading with the Enemy Act, the Buck Act. My first question to you would be, do you understand what an act is? Did you look up the definition of an act? Before you ask me that question, let me ask you, did you get a law dictionary and look up the definition of an act so you understand what an act is? You said, I'm not 60. I'm not 60. I said I'm almost 60. I'm almost 60. I didn't say I was 60. I said I'm almost 60 years old. I am almost 60 years old. Now, is this titanium? No, it's not. I don't think this. No, this is not a titanium. Titanium bikes, cost some bread. This is my little bike right here. I think I paid like $800 for this bike. I had a Trek 3. It got stolen. I paid almost $2,000 for that shit. But somebody stole it out my garage. So I went and bought this one. I paid by about $800 for this one right here. But it's cool. I like this one. I ain't ready for them big buck bike. Them high dollar bikes yet, because them high dollar bikes is for people who really get out there every day and ride. Like dudes around the lake, they be in competition and all kind of shit like that. These niggas, I'm trying to get up to that level. Yeah, you just search my name. I probably done talked about it already. I'm posting all my radio shows and everything like that. You look at what vitiates all contracts. The contract has an offer, acceptance, and consideration. But you don't have to have that if it's a gift. Did you know that? Do you know what an executory contract is? Like some of y'all think that a minor can't get in a contract. Yes, they can. It's just called an executory contract. It's not an executed contract. You know the difference between an executory contract and an executed contract? Some of y'all never even heard that term, executory. You don't even know, do you? I bet there's a guy, Tom, who said, I looked up vitiates all contracts. He didn't know, he'd never heard the term executory contract before. And then if you keep looking, an act is a voluntary decision by a legislative body, you're going to see read statute. Why are you leaving that part off? All right, anyway, I got to go, y'all. Peace to the gods. I'll see y'all next live. I got to go. Thank you for all the donations. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. I'll come back on a little later today. I got class today at 9 o'clock. We have class, trust class tonight. It was a very good class on Tuesday. A lot more people were in attendance. Hopefully tonight, I see a lot more people in attendance tonight. It's going to be tonight, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time on SPC University. Peace to the gods. I'll see y'all later.